Chapter 37-23. With a sword in one's chest, one could embrace the world and everything in the world could be a sword. This was the highest realm of the sword Tao. Of course, Fang Chen had not reached this ultimate realm and was only at the beginning. Even so, it was not something that Sword Maniac could compare to. The sword Tao that Sword Maniac was so proud of was completely suppressed by Fang Chen. This was also why Sword Maniac lost his composure and shook his head crazily. Kill him and seize his sword manual. This sentence was like a thunderbolt that deeply shook Sword Maniac's mind. In an instant, Sword Maniac shook his head violently and then gradually regained his composure. His eyes were filled with terrifying sword light as he looked greedily at Fang Chen. As long as he could seize Fang Chen's sword Tao foundation, he could also step into the third level of the sword Tao that he had always dreamed of. At that time, he would be the most dazzling young sword saint in the entire origin world. That's right, a sword saint. Moreover, he had hopes of reaching the legendary Supreme Sword Tao throne. After thinking quickly in his mind, he quickly made a decision. Since there were only the three of them here, no one would see even if he killed Fang Chen. It would not damage his reputation. Since that was the case, why not give it a try? As the saying goes, wealth comes from danger. Kill. Sword Maniac regained his composure and once again displayed his powerful sword technique. At this time, the man in brocade robes also approached Fang Chen and joined forces with Sword Maniac. Invincible sword technique. Seeing this, Fang Chen dashed towards Madman Jian with his fastest speed and slashed out with his sword. Crack. In just one exchange, Sword Maniac was defeated. Your sword heart has been shattered. Fang Chen's voice echoed in Sword Maniac's ears. No, I don't believe it. Sword Maniac fell into a frenzy and fought fiercely with Fang Chen. Seeing this, the man in brocade robes was secretly delighted. He had achieved his goal. Then, with a shake of his wrist, he took out another array flower. Buzz. As the array flower was released, terrifying runes intertwined and formed a small array in an instant, trapping Fang Chen and Sword Maniac. Dong. The power of the two of them was frantically attacking the formation. However, they were unable to break it open. Sword Lunatic, trap him. I'll go look for other treasures. The brocade-robed man's voice sounded out, causing Sword Lunatic to fly into a rage. You dare to plot against me? At this moment, he finally understood that the man in embroidered clothes didn't have any good intentions at all, and the man had always been using him. Idiot. The brocade-robed man sneered. This array flower was different from the ones in the outside world. Once activated, the formation would continue to shrink. Furthermore, it would release an indestructible power. Only when everyone within the formation had been killed would the formation stop. This also meant that no matter what, Zhen Fengzi and Fang Chen would die in the formation. Boom. As the two of them clashed, Sword Lunatic was once again sent flying by Fang Chen. He held the beheading spirit sword in his hand and looked coldly at the brocade-robed man. You want to trap me with a mere formation? Indeed, this formation was very strong. However, Fang Chen was confident that he could break it. He just needed time. Lunatic Swordsman also calmed down. He coldly glanced at Fang Chen and transferred all his anger onto the man in the brocade robe. If you don't want to be trapped here, join forces with me. Fang Chen went straight to the point. I can break the formation, but I need your help. All right. Sword Lunatic agreed without hesitation. In a while, I will look for the trajectory of the formation and every formation base. During this period, you have to use all your strength to attack the formation. Fang Chen said. Sword Lunatic hesitated. If he exhausted all his strength, wouldn't he be at the mercy of Fang Chen? Swoosh. A dazzling sword light descended from the sky and pierced through the void. In an instant, it was right in front of Sword Lunatic's chest. As long as this sword light was an inch closer, Sword Lunatic would definitely die. So strong. Sword Lunatic was horrified. This sword light was actually integrated with the origin of gold. It was too powerful. If I wanted to kill you, you would already be dead. Fang Chen said impatiently. Sword Lunatic was speechless. He looked at Fang Chen with even more shock. He didn't expect that the sword technique he used just now wasn't his strongest sword technique. How can there be such a strong sword cultivator? His heart was in a mess, but he still did as Fang Chen said. At this point, if he continued to fight with Fang Chen, he would be the one to die. He couldn't accept it. He had been obsessed with the sword Dao all his life, but he didn't expect to be harmed by a villain in the end. In the ancestral hall, the brocade-robed man sneered and said disdainfully, "Don't waste your energy. This formation flower was given by the experts of the 4 major branches. It's impossible for the 2 of you to break it." He revealed his evil fangs. "Kid, hand over everything you got in the ancestral hall and set up a blood curse. From now on, you will be my servant and I will let you live." The brocade-robed man continued, "Don't think, this is your only way out." Then, his gaze fell on Sword Lunatic. "As for you, those who know my true colors are all dead. You are no exception." Sword Lunatic's existence made him feel a sense of crisis. Therefore, Sword Lunatic had to die. Fang Chen stood up and stared at the brocade-robed man. "Do you think your plan is flawless? Otherwise?" The brocade-robed man shrugged. Rumble. At this moment, a deafening roar came from outside the ancestral hall. Immediately after, countless demonic beasts rushed over. "Who dares to barge into my ancestral hall?" The monsters roared angrily. Suddenly, the brocade-robed man's expression changed. He shook his wrist and frantically injected power into the formation flower to force the 2 of them. "Hurry up and hand over what you've obtained. Otherwise, I'll kill you right now." Since he was discovered by the monsters, he had to leave this place as soon as possible. Otherwise, once the ancestors of the monsters returned, he would die without a doubt. Therefore, he tried his best to suppress the formation and threaten Fang Chen. "Ha ha." Fang Chen sneered. He stood motionless. The formation kept shrinking, but when it was about to reach Fang Chen's body, it couldn't move. "Huh!" The brocade-robed man noticed this and exclaimed, "How is this possible?" He continued to control the formation flower in disbelief, but the result was the same. "No, it's impossible." He shook his head frantically, unwilling to accept this fact. "If I can get out, I will kill you," Sword Lunatic said coldly. Crack. The formation outside the clan's ancestral hall was being attacked crazily by the demon beasts. The other formation flower in his hand was on the verge of collapse, as if it would collapse at any moment. "Damn it." The brocade-robed man gritted his teeth and said crazily, "Good, very good, then all of you can die." With that, he directly crushed the formation flower that trapped Fang Chen and Sword Lunatic. Boom. Chapter 3724. Since he couldn't get any useful information from Fang Chen, there were a large number of beasts attacking the array outside the ancestral hall. He couldn't hold on for too long, so the man chose to let Fang Chen and Sword Maniac attract the firepower of the beasts while he prepared to escape. "Mph," he snorted and crushed the array flower. A terrifying force swept towards Sword Maniac and Fang Chen. At the same time, the array outside the ancestral hall shattered. Crack. A large number of beasts swarmed in. "Damn it, how dare you barge into the ancestral hall?" For the beasts, the ancestral hall was their ancestral ground and also a forbidden area. Ordinary people were not qualified to enter. Unexpectedly, someone from the outside world had barged in. This caused everyone to feel a wave of anger. "Let's go." The man in luxurious clothes sneered. Soon after, he stomped his foot and a black hole instantly appeared under his feet. After which, he jumped into it. Just as the demonic beasts were about to chase after the man in luxurious robes, they suddenly discovered Fang Chen and Sword Lunatic. "There are still 2 of them." As his voice fell, the array that trapped the 2 of them finally couldn't hold on and shattered. Sword Maniac and Fang Chen looked at each other. They didn't expect to be used by the man and trapped here. "In the current situation, we can only join forces," Sword Maniac said. Although they had grudges against each other, they could only unite against the beasts. "Okay." Fang Chen nodded. Holding the beheading spirit sword, he exerted his strongest power. Sword Maniac also acted. In an instant, The two of them turned into two shocking sword lights and began to fight with the beasts. Poochie. One by one, the beasts fell into a pool of blood. With what little strength they had left, it was impossible for them to stop Fang Chen and Sword Lunatic, two Sword Dao experts. Quickly inform the ancestor. Some of the beasts were frightened and roared loudly. Fang Chen knew that it wasn't good to stay here for long. He discovered the hole that the luxuriously dressed man had escaped from and leaped into it. Swordsman followed closely behind and jumped in as well. Hiss hiss hiss. Underground, it was pitch black. There was a tunnel in front of them. Fang Chen and Sword Lunatic were moving forward rapidly. After a long time, when they sensed that the demonic beasts weren't chasing after them, they heaved a sigh of relief. Where does this lead to? Sword Lunatic asked. Fang Chen shook his head in confusion. At this moment, the man in luxurious clothes had already passed through the passageway and arrived in front of a ruin. This was an abandoned mansion. The ancient words on the door represented the long history of this mansion. It's really here. The brocade-robed man shouted excitedly. His granduncle's map was real. He didn't lie to him. His only regret was that he had been discovered by the demonic beasts. Otherwise, he could explore this ancient mansion with peace of mind. Open it quickly. He tried to push the gate of the mansion, but something shocking happened. No matter how much strength he exerted, the gate of the mansion didn't budge at all. How is this possible? The man in luxurious clothes exclaimed. Although his physical strength wasn't the best, he was still one of the best among the sages. Moreover, he had a special physique that could increase his physical strength by 100 times. Let's try again. The man in luxurious clothes tried again, but it still didn't work. Whoosh. He took a few steps back and stabilized himself. His forehead was covered in sweat. Could there be a hidden mechanism? He rolled his eyes and began to search. Rustle, rustle, rustle. Not knowing how much time had passed, he suddenly felt movement behind him. He turned around abruptly and saw Fang Chen and Sword Lunatic. You guys, in his plan, the two of them should have died under the siege of the demonic beasts. Why? Are you surprised? Sword Lunatic licked his dry lips and looked at the man in luxurious clothes mockingly. At the same time, he took a step forward with a huge sword in his hand. His body released a terrifying sword chi. Seeing Sword Lunatic's killing intent, the man in luxurious clothes hurriedly said, Sword Lunatic, we might have a misunderstanding before, but now, I have found the ruins. Let's work together and force the sword manual out of his body. Then, we can explore this mansion together, how about it? Seeing that Sword Lunatic was unmoved, the man in luxurious clothes continued to persuade, I can give you half of the treasures in this mansion. Such an ancient mansion, without a doubt, must have been left behind by a super expert. The treasures inside must be very tempting. Although it was only half, it was enough to make the world go crazy. The man in luxurious clothes believed that there was no absolute enemy in the world. As long as there were enough benefits, they could become good brothers tomorrow. So, he persuaded Sword Lunatic. Because he had identified Sword Lunatic's weakness. To him, the sword manual was more important than anything else. You have to know, that is Drunken Sword's sword manual. Although it might be incomplete, it will be of great help to your sword cultivation. The man in luxurious clothes said, you have fought with him before, so you should know how strong his sword attainments are, right? Even after he obtained the sword manual, he could become so strong. What about you? Besides, if we don't work together to deal with him, with his vengeful heart, will he just stand by and watch? Sword Lunatic smiled as he stared at the man in luxurious clothes. After he finished speaking, Sword Lunatic raised his hand and pointed at himself. Do you think I, Sword Lunatic, am a fool? With that said, the man in luxurious clothes was stunned. Then, he smiled bitterly. Just now, I was not targeting you, nor was I using you. I just wanted you to kill him in the array. He continued to defend himself. The monster beast group discovered us, so I could only go through the passage and find the mansion. Then, I was prepared to receive you, but I didn't expect you to come by yourself. Fang Chen found it funny. He had never seen such a shameless person. It was the first time he had seen someone who could turn white into black. Furthermore, after the man in luxurious clothes finished speaking, he did not feel ashamed at all. He looked at Sword Lunatic with a burning gaze, as if he believed that the latter would definitely agree to join forces with him. Shio. But what responded to him was a shocking sword light. Poochie. The sword light was as fast as lightning, slashing towards the man in luxurious clothes. The latter hurriedly dodged, but his sleeve was still pierced by the sword light. Sword Lunatic. The man in luxurious clothes was enraged. I have a way to enter the mansion, don't tell me you don't want to enter. If you dare to make a move on me, you can forget about ever entering. He was threatening Sword Lunatic. If I kill you, I can still enter. Chapter 37:25. Roar. The roar of a beast could be heard from the passage. The brocade-robed man's face turned gloomy. If they continued to delay and were surrounded by the beasts, it would be difficult to open the mansion. Sword Lunatic. The brocade-robed man said angrily. Swoosh. There was another sword light. Sword Lunatic slashed out with his sword and the brocade-robed man dodged. However, Fang Chen said, the beasts have already discovered this place. Why don't we open this ancient mansion first? Hearing this, the brocade-robed man nodded. Sword Lunatic was puzzled but still agreed. All right, I'll explain what I know now. The brocade-robed man explained the situation of the mansion as quickly as possible. Let's try to open it together. The brocade-robed man suggested. Okay. The three of them stood in a row and attacked together. Rumble. A deafening sound reverberated under the ground. The three terrifying attacks converged at one point in the air before violently slamming against the door of the ancient mansion. The gloomy door trembled slightly before it quieted down. Even Fang Chen was stunned. There's a restriction, he said in a deep voice. Even a ninth-order saint would not be able to resist the three of them together. How could a mere door block them? The only explanation was that there was a restriction engraved on the door. Fang Chen walked up to the door and gently touched it with his finger. Immediately, he felt countless faintly discernible runes crisscrossing each other. Sure enough, Fang Chen said, the restriction on the door is engraved with an extremely special method. Under normal circumstances, even a ninth-order saint would find it difficult to discover. You can understand it? Sword Lunatic asked. The brocade-robed man also said, since you can understand it, then quickly break it open. I need you to protect me, Fang Chen said straightforwardly. The two of them readily agreed. Subsequently, Fang Chen sat cross-legged in front of the door and touched it with both hands. In an instant, the runes flashed and emitted a golden light that was extremely hot. Seeing this, the two of them were pleasantly surprised. Catcher. Fang Chen forcibly tore open the restriction, creating a small gap. Swoosh. However, to his surprise, the brocade-robed man was the first to rush into the gap and disappeared in an instant. Ha ha ha, two idiots. The brocade-robed man's mocking voice sounded in his ears. Damn it. Sword Lunatic said angrily. Humph. Fang Chen sneered, you brought this upon yourself. He had purposely revealed a flaw just now to lure the man in brocade clothes into the trap. He did not expect the man to be so greedy that he really rushed in and even tried to block the gap to prevent them from entering. This son of a bitch is blocking the gap. Sword Lunatic wanted nothing more than to hack the man to death with his sword. It's all right, I've already found a way to open it. The probing and research just now was not without results. At the very least, Fang Chen had obtained some secrets from the restrictions carved on the door. This ancient mansion was related to the primordial races. This was because he felt a power that he had never heard of before. This power did not belong to the demon-devouring race or the beings of the Chaos Realm. Moreover, he felt an aura similar to the sky-severing alchemy art from it. Has Supreme Fu Jian been here before? Fang Chen's eyes flashed with surprise. Thinking of the Nether King and the White Ape race, Supreme Fu Jian must have been related to the primordial races. Thinking about it this way, everything seemed to make sense. Buzz. He activated his perfect bloodline and the restriction engraved on the door instantly melted. This made him even more shocked. Why did all the ruins related to the beings of the Chaos Realm resonate with his perfect bloodline after coming to the origin world? Could it be that everything had been predestined? He remembered what the Supreme Monarch had said at the end of the reincarnation road. Who could see through reincarnation? Who could control the true reincarnation? The more Fang Chen came into contact with the origin world, the more he felt that someone was playing a game of chess and he was being used as a pawn. Open! Following a soft shout, the door slowly opened. He and the sword maniac quickly entered. When the beasts arrived, the door closed again. Damn it, they must be hiding inside. Let's break open the door and kill them. The beasts joined forces and attacked the door. At the same time, the ancestor of the beasts, who was searching for Fang Chen in the cave of the slaying dragon, was furious when he heard the news. How dare you invade our territory? He immediately turned around without saying anything. It seems that our race has been too low-key and forgotten by the world. In that case, I don't mind starting a war. On this day, everyone in the cave of the slaying dragon felt the anger of the heavens. They hid in the dark and did not dare to show themselves, fearing that they would be discovered by the ancestor of the beasts. They saw an angry blood-red light passing through the void and shooting in a certain direction. Wherever the blood-red light passed, people were plunged into misery and suffering. What happened? Many geniuses in the mansions asked. The cave of the slaying dragon was different from what they had imagined. Even if they hid in the blue spot, it was not safe. In the forbidden zone of life, where the White Ape clan lived. White Ape raised his eyes and looked forward. White One and his two brothers had come to his side. Grandpa White, which clan has appeared? White 3 asked. Doesn't that mean that guy is in danger? White 2 curled his lips. Only White 1 stared at White Ape for a long time before slowly saying, Grandpa White, did you predict all of this? White Ape nodded. He has the world on his shoulders and must seek a breakthrough at the edge of life and death. The devouring demon clan was too strong. Even the primitive clans found it difficult to fight against them. Moreover, as the strength of the devouring demon clan's leader increased, the Chaos Realm would also be devoured. When that time came, all living beings would be destroyed. But White One still wanted to say something, but he was interrupted by White Ape. White Ape shook his head. Wearing a crown meant bearing its weight. Fang Chen's path was not just about wearing a crown. Back then, even someone as powerful as Fu Jian failed. He has the shadows of many people in him. Even I can't see through him. But I have a feeling that he may be the most promising one in the past few eras. In fact, White Ape had something in his heart that he did not say. If even he failed, then the Chaos Realm would have no chance at all. Buzz. In the void, there was a special sound wave that was faintly discernible. Of the 4 present, only White Ape heard it. He turned his head and looked at the depths of the forbidden zone. His eyes were filled with disbelief and doubt. Even they were alarmed. White Ape muttered to himself. Obviously. Chapter 37:26. In an ancient mansion. What entered his eyes was a stretch of ruins. The main buildings here had basically turned into dust. And on top of the ruins, stood a figure. Damn it. After seeing the man in the brocade robe, Sword Lunatic roared and directly used his strongest swordsmanship to attack. How is this possible? The man in the brocade robe cried out when he saw Sword Lunatic. He didn't expect the two of them to come in so quickly. Let's go. Almost without any hesitation, the man in the brocade robe leaped and his body merged into the void, wanting to escape. Boom. The gigantic sword swooped down, bringing with it boundless power, as well as the boundless rage of the sword madman. Unfortunately, the sword missed and dust flew and the ruins exploded instantly. Mph, just you wait. When I find the inheritance, I will definitely kill all of you. The man in the brocade robe said coldly as he sneaked in the dark. Bang! Suddenly, he felt that he had hit a hard object and his body staggered and he almost fell. What is it? After he stabilized his body, he suddenly looked up and was completely stunned when he saw Fang Chen appear in front of him with a smile. You, he shook his head hard and couldn't believe what he saw in front of him. He had clearly used a secret technique to avoid the attacks of the two. How could this guy predict his route when he was in danger? Want to leave? Fang Chen sneered and flicked his wrist. The Spirit Slayer sword instantly rushed out and the terrifying sword chi pierced through heaven and earth. Get lost. The man in the brocade robe woke up from the shock and shouted in a low voice as he fought with Fang Chen. However, as soon as they fought, there was a storm in his heart. Who the hell is he? The man in the brocade robe was very puzzled. Why was Fang Chen's swordsmanship so powerful? And, most importantly, it was the same as before. No matter how he dodged, he couldn't avoid the other party's attack. Heaven-slashing alchemy. There was no one around and Fang Chen didn't hesitate to use the heaven-slashing alchemy. The moment the sword was unleashed, heaven and earth shook. In the void, the sword light exploded and fell down in an instant. One could vaguely see thousands of sword shadows in the air. These sword shadows were all protecting the huge sword. No! The brocade-robed man sensed the arrival of death. He cried out in alarm and dodged with all his might. The commotion here attracted the attention of Sword Lunatic. Die! Without hesitation, Sword Lunatic slashed out with his sword. His swordsmanship resonated with Fang Chen's heaven-shaking greatsword from afar. Attacking from the front and back, the brocade-robed man had no way to dodge. Sword Lunatic, you dare to kill me? Sword Lunatic sneered, why wouldn't I? The two of them were originally partners, but the man in the brocade robe was too ambitious. He had been using Sword Lunatic, and at the crucial moment, he had plotted against Sword Lunatic. This also led to a complete break between him and Sword Lunatic. Even though Sword Lunatic and Fang Chen were enemies. However, he hated the brocade-clothed man even more. Poochie. Sword Lunatic's long sword struck the man in the brocade-clothed man's body. The latter let out a scream as his body fell heavily to the ground. At this moment, he was still trying to find a way to escape. No, you can't kill me. I'm a member of the Yu Mansion, and I'm valued by the experts of the 4 major branches. If you kill me, it will bring disaster to you. At this moment, he could only use his identity to stop the killing intent of the two. Unfortunately, even if he was killed in the dragon-slaying cave, the Yu Mansion would not know. Poochie. The Spirit Slayer sword fell and cleanly reaped the life of the brocade-clothed man. Buzz. In the void, the dust shook and the smell of blood gradually spread. Vaguely, one could still hear the miserable cries of the brocade-clothed man. Yu Mansion. Fang Chen muttered. He had heard of the Yu Mansion before. It was also one of the mansions under the 4 major branches. However, it was much stronger than the Carefree Mansion. Moreover, it had a close relationship with the 4 major branches. Liu Han is an outstanding disciple of the younger generation of the Yu Mansion. Sword Lunatic kept his long sword and said in a deep voice, his family is the absolute overlord of the Yu Mansion. There was once a half-step chaotic sovereign in the family, so the Yu Mansion has always been above the other mansions. Even if the Yu Mansion had declined, there were still many invincible saints in the family. Moreover, there was the legendary strongest invincible saint in the origin world. What was the strongest invincible saint? The strongest person below the half-step chaotic sovereign. One could imagine how powerful the Yu Mansion was. However, you don't have to worry. In the dragon-slaying cave, the sky prides of the various mansions are present. Even if the Yu Mansion wants to investigate, they won't be able to find the culprit. Sword Lunatic continued. He looked at Fang Chen with eyes full of fighting spirit. After the battle, the hatred he had for Fang Chen had completely disappeared. All that was left was his dedication to the Sword Dao. There was no grudge between us. Everything started because of Liu Han. Now that he's dead, I won't find trouble with you from now on. Sword Lunatic said, however, although your Sword Dao attainments are stronger than mine, I won't admit defeat or give up. One day, I will surpass you. After saying that, Sword Lunatic's figure flashed and disappeared in front of Fang Chen. Fang Chen shrugged. Yu Mansion. He shook his head and stopped thinking about it. His gaze was focused on the ancient mansion. Whoosh. He searched Liu Han's body for a while and found a map. This is Liu Han's granduncle had once broken into the nest of the beasts and accidentally found some secrets. Then, he drew a map. This map was very precious to the Yu mansion. They would never have dreamed that the map would eventually fall into the hands of Fang Chen. After looking at the map, Fang Chen realized. On the map, in addition to the internal structure of the nest of the beasts, it also involved the ancient mansion. He saw that the location of the ancient mansion was marked by Liu Han's granduncle with a red dot. What exactly is hidden here? A few days later, the ancestor of the beasts returned in anger. He was incomparably furious. Wherever he passed, the mountains collapsed and the earth cracked. Rumble. A deafening sound echoed in the sky above the entire dragon-slaying cave. The ancestor of the beasts came to the front of the nest with endless anger. What the hell is going on? His cold eyes swept across the crowd and asked in a cold voice. Ancestor, there are outsiders who trespassed into the ancestral hall. After understanding what had happened, the face of the ancestor of the beasts became completely gloomy. You all completely block the entrance of the passage, and at the same time increase the number of troops to guard our nest. No one is allowed to come close. Otherwise, kill without mercy. I will personally explore. Before I return, don't act rashly. He seemed to know something, and his expression was very unnatural. Chapter 37-27. The overall strength of the Yu mansion was much stronger than that of the Ju mansion. Basically, it was the strongest residence under the four main branches. As for Liu Han, as a disciple of the Yu mansion, he was killed by Fang Chen and Sword Lunatic. If this news were to spread, it would definitely cause a huge sensation. However, for the current Fang Chen, he did not have so many concerns. What he needed to do was to work hard to improve his cultivation and then kill all the other trainers in the dragon-slaying cave, as well as the monster tribes. Only then would he be qualified to continue cultivating in the life-forbidden zone. In fact, he could even learn more secrets from them. After studying for a few days, Fang Chen finally understood the map. Here. He suddenly stopped in front of a dilapidated building. His pitch-black eyes stared ahead. This abandoned building had been baptized by wind and rain, and its original appearance could no longer be seen. However, Fang Chen vaguely felt that there was a sense of déjà vu here. What's going on? Fang Chen frowned as he slowly walked towards the abandoned building. Buzz. When his feet came into contact with the dilapidated building, ripples suddenly appeared on the ground. These ripples instantly turned dark green and emitted a dazzling light. At the same time, Fang Chen felt a sense of danger. Let's go. Without thinking, he leaped, wanting to leave this place. However, it was already too late. Behind him, the green light that blotted out the sky condensed into a huge yellow sword that smashed into his body with a bang. Dong. Fang Chen felt the power in his body tremble, and the origin energy crazily emerged. Buzz. When the origin energy covered his body, he felt the heavy pressure disappear. Not long after, the huge yellow sword dissipated, and the dark green light reappeared. Fang Chen, who had calmed down, saw this scene, his pupils suddenly shrank, and his heart trembled. The origin of Earth. He clearly saw that the process of the huge yellow sword disappearing was very similar to the origin of Earth that he comprehended. Thinking of the scene just now, he cried out involuntarily. What exactly is here? He got up from the ground and looked around. He realized that he had unknowingly arrived at the abandoned building. This place was covered in dust, and there was a mottled sword at the very front. What a powerful origin aura! Fang Chen could not help but exclaim. Every step he took resonated with the earth. The entire dilapidated building was filled with the aura of the earth origin. Could it be? Fang Chen frowned and pondered. After a long time, he regained his composure. It was certain that a super expert of the earth element had once come to this abandoned building and left behind a mottled giant sword that contained the power of the origin of earth. Fang Chen grinned. After checking his surroundings, he did not discover any danger. Soon after, he approached the mottled sword, sat down cross-legged, and began to comprehend it. Not long ago, his comprehension of the origin of Earth had already reached the entry level. However, he was still unable to find the smooth feeling of flowing mercury. He needed an opportunity. As long as the time was right, he was confident that he would be able to completely comprehend the origin of Earth. At that time, the Earth Sword of the 5 heaven-rending swords would be able to unleash even greater power. Buzz. Fang Chen's body emitted a gentle power that slowly guided the origin of Earth in the mottled giant sword. At the same time, Fang Chen's body formed a rhythm with the Earth. Dong. A series of loud noises came from underground. This was the Earth Pulse. Buzz. Layers of pulsations were quickly stacking up. As time passed, Fang Chen frantically absorbed the origin of Earth in the mottled giant sword. In just an hour, the mottled giant sword began to dim, and the Earth Pulse halo superimposed around Fang Chen had reached a terrifying number. While Fang Chen was comprehending the origin of Earth, Sword Maniac was not idle either. He unintentionally stepped into an abandoned building with a Sword Dao inheritance and triggered a Sword Dao test. He was experiencing a near-death experience. The Drunken Sword Inheritance, it really is the Drunken Sword Inheritance. Sword Maniac shouted excitedly. He had been obsessed with the Sword Dao all his life. Before he fought with Fang Chen, he thought that he was the strongest sword cultivator of the younger generation in the origin world, and that his Sword Dao attainments were the closest to a Sword Saint. However, the battle with Fang Chen made him clearly realize the shortcomings of his Sword Dao, as well as Fang Chen's unimaginably terrifying attainments in the way of the sword. Since then, his confidence seemed to have taken a hit. But now, in front of the Drunken Sword Inheritance, the previous haze was swept away, and he was excited to the point of madness. As long as I can completely receive the Drunken Sword Inheritance, my Sword Dao cultivation will definitely skyrocket. As he spoke, a shocking sword intent shot out from his eyes. Lin Chen, I will defeat you. In this life, he had already regarded Lin Chen as his only opponent. Of course. He thought that among the younger generation, only a super genius like Lin Chen was qualified to be his opponent. Buzz. He resolutely took a step forward and entered the sword-shaped halo. Ah! A miserable scream came from Sword Maniac's mouth. He gritted his teeth and endured the pain of thousands of swords piercing his heart. He did not retreat and continued to persevere. Pass the first test. Suddenly, a mechanical voice echoed in the air. Sword Maniac was already numb, and his body went limp on the ground. After resting for 2 hours, we will continue with the second test. Sword Maniac's face twitched when he heard this. He did not waste any time and quickly recovered. At this moment, outside the ancient mansion, the ancestor of the monster race personally came. He looked at the mansion with a blank and fearful expression. He recalled the ancestral teachings. Our clan's lair is suppressing a shocking great demon. And our clan's mission is to suppress the great demon generation after generation and guard this place. He vaguely remembered that the ancestor had once said that the shocking great demon here had a great background. Once he escaped, the entire origin world would be affected. At that time, their clan would be destroyed. And now, someone had entered the ancient mansion. The ancestor of the monster race's heart was bleeding. He could only pray that the person who entered would be killed by the aura of the great demon. Otherwise. At the same time, he was also trying to open the ancient mansion. Chen-ph, trash from the outside world. If I catch you, I will definitely tear you into pieces and never let you reincarnate. The ancestor of the monster race said with a ferocious expression. Outside the passage, the monster race was guarding it. They were also filled with doubts. What was at the end of the passage? Why did the ancestor's expression look so serious? They seemed to have realized the seriousness of the situation. Elder, there are people from the outside looking in from outside our clan's lair. Suddenly, a demonic beast reported. How many people? The elder asked. I only saw one person. We can't rule out the possibility that there are others hiding in the dark. The monster that reported earlier said in a low voice. Chapter 37:28. Outside the nest of the beasts, many people were hiding in the dark, looking into the distance. The old ancestor of the demonic beasts was furious. He rushed back from outside. Something must have happened to the nest. They all wanted to see what was going on and whether there was an opportunity to be found. However, at this moment, a large group of demonic beasts arrived in a grandiose manner. "Leave our territory quickly, or we'll kill you." The demonic beast in the lead unleashed a terrifying power that invisibly intimidated everyone present. "Let's go." They had no enmity with the beasts, and they had to cherish the opportunity to enter the cave of the slaying dragon. "Let's go to other places to find opportunities. This is a rare opportunity to cultivate in the cave of the slaying dragon." Many people shook their heads and left. Many beasts of the beasts were guarding outside the valley. "Guard strictly. Anyone who dares to come close or look into the distance will be killed," the leader of the beasts said in a deep voice. At the same time, in the ancient mansion, in front of an old building, Fang Chen sat cross-legged on the ground, comprehending the origin of Earth. Time passed bit by bit, and in the blink of an eye, half a year had passed. During this time, Fang Chen had been comprehending, and Sword Lunatic was also undergoing the test of the drunken sword inheritance. As for the ancestors of the beasts, they were trying their best to find a way to enter the ancient mansion. As for the cave of the slaying dragon, there were endless battles. In the past 6 months, a man named Blackstar had suddenly risen to power. He had found the inheritance of an ancient almighty and stepped into the 8th Order Sage realm in one fell swoop. At the same time, because he had mastered a powerful secret technique, he was invincible in the same realm and could even fight with a 9th Order saint. After he came out of seclusion, he kept looking for others to challenge. On a mountain peak, a man in black held a battle axe and stared ahead. Opposite him stood a man in plain clothes. "Blackstar, what is the meaning of this?" This man was looking for an opportunity when he was suddenly stopped by Blackstar. Then, Blackstar attacked him recklessly and forced him to this mountain peak. "It seems that you have forgotten what happened 100 years ago." Suddenly, Blackstar's face wriggled, and in an instant, he changed his face. Seeing this scene, the plain-looking man exclaimed, "You, Black Demon?" He finally recognized Blackstar's true face and recalled what had happened 100 years ago. "You're still alive?" He kept shaking his head, unable to imagine how Blackstar had managed to survive. "Impossible, absolutely impossible. Back then, I saw with my own eyes that your vitality was fading away." Hihi, Blackstar's face was ferocious as he held his battle axe and said with a hoarse voice, "I live for revenge. Now that I'm here, are you ready to die?" Blackstar's voice was filled with a domineering aura. The man quickly regained his composure and said with a deep voice, "Blackstar, what happened back then wasn't my fault," but Blackstar would not listen to his explanation. He had endured for over 100 years. Before he had absolute strength, who could imagine how much humiliation he had suffered? Right now, by chance, he had obtained the inheritance of a certain ancient powerhouse, and his strength had soared. Since he wanted to seek revenge, he had no choice. Die. Blackstar's palm suddenly slashed out, and a strong wind exploded. At the same time, the battle axe in his hand whistled out. Catcher. In the void, the huge axe cut through the heavens and the earth, bringing with it endless power as it swooped down. "You're courting death." The man was furious, and a trace of cold killing intent flashed in his eyes. The battle 100 years ago had not completely killed Blackstar. Then, he would just have to kill him again. Dong, dong, dong. He opened his arms, and a ferocious appearance appeared on the surface of his skin. A thick layer of armor covered his arms completely in an instant. At this time, he suddenly raised his arms and faced the huge axe in the void. Catcher. The axe ruthlessly slashed on the man's arms, and in the next moment, a strange scene appeared. The ferocious armor on his arms actually shattered instantly. The axe suddenly pressed down and instantly chopped off the man's arms. Ah! A miserable scream came from the man's mouth. "You! Sacrifice!" He desperately tried to escape, but unfortunately, it was too late. Blackstar's combat strength was too strong, and his power was very evil. It was not something he could resist at all. Kill. Blackstar's aura had already locked onto the man. The axe chopped down once more, instantly killing the man. Just you wait. You so-called geniuses are destined to become the background of this Blackstar. Blackstar raised his axe and roared. In front of an old building in an ancient mansion after half a year of tempering, The earthen yellow halo around Fang Chen's body had increased. Wang. At a certain moment, he suddenly opened his eyes and waved his hands. In an instant, the earthen yellow halo around him rippled, and the ground began to tremble. The throbbing pulse of the earth. The 256th layer. Catcher. When the throbbing pulse of the earth reached the 256th layer, the ground instantly cracked. The terrifying aura of earth origin surged out like a flood and drilled into Fang Chen's body. Whoosh! Fang Chen breathed a sigh of relief and spat out a mouthful of turbid air. A smile appeared on his face. Success! After comprehending for half a year, he had finally comprehended the earth origin to perfection. Furthermore, the 256th layer of the throbbing pulse of the earth was one of the best in the entire origin world. I wonder when I'll be able to reach the 512th layer. Fang Chen muttered to himself. The more he comprehended, the more he discovered the profoundness of the origins. After all, these were the origins of the 5 elements that had formed when the chaos world had first been created. This kind of origin power contained thousands of mysteries. It was unrealistic to want to comprehend it completely in a short time. I wonder what it will be like when all the origins of the 5 elements are gathered in one body and comprehended completely. Fang Chen even guessed that the path to the chaotic supremacy level was to comprehend the origins of the 5 elements to the perfection level and then merge them together to form the origins merge. Of course, this was only his guess. After all, there had been very few chaotic supremacies since ancient times. It had been a long time since a chaotic supremacy had appeared in the chaos world. The last chaotic supremacy had to be traced back to Supreme Fu Jian. Unfortunately, it was unknown whether Supreme Fu Jian was dead or alive. Otherwise, the chaos world would not have fallen to such a state. Whoosh! Fang Chen took a deep breath. He felt even more pressure on his shoulders. He adjusted his mentality and executed the heaven-severing 5 swords. The most obvious change when the throbbing pulse of the earth reached the 256th layer was that the power of the earth sword of the heaven-severing 5 swords had multiplied. Once the move was executed, it could instantly form a strong defense. Not many people below the invincible saint realm could break through it. The ancient mansion is very mysterious. I hope I can find some clues about the origin of wood and see if I can comprehend it. Chapter 3729. Boom. After half a year, the patriarch of the monster race finally found a loophole in the ancient mansion and took the opportunity to enter. Ha ha ha, I'm finally in. The demonic beast clan's patriarch laughed wildly. Soon, his eyes were filled with shocking killing intent. Anyone who dares to break into my race's lair will be killed without mercy. In the next moment, his figure flashed and disappeared into the void. Fang Chen had just finished practicing the heaven-severing pentaswords and was about to leave when he suddenly sensed the approaching dark clouds. By the time he sensed the danger, it was already too late. The progenitor of the beasts had already arrived. It's you. The patriarch of the monster race sensed the powerful sword chi and quickly came here, but he didn't expect to see Fang Chen. You damned guy. These days, the monster race had been looking for Fang Chen. The patriarch of the monster race couldn't wait to tear him into pieces. You're the one who killed my race's disciples. He stomped his foot and instantly rushed towards Fang Chen. Rumble. A terrifying aura swept through heaven and earth. Fang Chen felt an incomparably heavy pressure. Oh no! He realized that something was wrong and slashed out with his sword. The golden sword of the heaven slashing 5 swords burst out with a sharp and domineering sword chi. Crack. However, the patriarch of the monster race was too powerful. He shattered it with a punch and continued to rush towards him. Earth sword. Fang Chen leaped and prepared to escape. He was not a match for the patriarch yet. You can't escape. The patriarch of the monster race roared and struck out with his palm. The sky collapsed and the earth cracked. Dust flew everywhere. Buzz. Fang Chen's body was covered with an earthy yellow aura. When he used the earth sword, his defense was raised to the highest level. Boom. He barely blocked the palm of the patriarch of the monster race. Then, he escaped into the darkness. You can't escape. The patriarch of the monster race chased after him unhurriedly. As long as Fang Chen was in the ancient mansion, he couldn't escape. The patriarch of the monster race wasn't in a hurry at all. When I suppress you, I will definitely shatter your primordial spirit so that you will never be reincarnated. The patriarch of the monster race's eyes flashed with shocking killing intent. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Fang Chen quickly climbed over the abandoned buildings, but he couldn't get rid of the monster race's patriarch at all. His expression was solemn. This was a matter of life and death, so he did not dare to be careless. Boom. Along the way, the patriarchs of the demonic beasts kept attacking Fang Chen from afar, trying to slow him down. And he had achieved his goal. Even though Fang Chen tried his best to dodge, he was still hit by the attack from afar, causing his speed to decrease sharply. The distance between him and the patriarch of the monster beast clan was also getting closer and closer. I told you, you can't escape. After sending Fang Chen flying with a palm, the patriarch of the monster race was emitting a bloody aura. He looked down at Fang Chen from above. He took a step forward and came in front of Fang Chen. He raised his hand to suppress him. Sky-severing 5 swords. Fang Chen couldn't care less. He activated the perfect bloodline in his body. In an instant, a crazy power was injected into the Spirit Slayer sword. He swung 4 swords in a row. The power of each sword reached the peak. The patriarch of the monster race was blocked by the 4 sword lights. He didn't expect Fang Chen's swordsmanship to be so exquisite. It's useless. He pressed down hard, and cracks appeared on the 4 sword lights. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Fang Chen leaped and his speed soared to the extreme. In an instant, he rushed into the distance. At the same time, dong dong dong, there was a vibration in the distance, which resonated with the perfect bloodline in Fang Chen's body. Fang Chen was stunned. He immediately rushed toward the source of the sound without hesitation. A moment later, he arrived in front of an abandoned building. There was a broken sword here. He took a step forward and entered. Buzz. After he entered, layers of halos were released from the broken sword, sealing the place. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Sonic booms rang out. The demonic beast race's old ancestor shattered the 4 sword lights and chased after him. However, he discovered that Fang Chen had disappeared. Where did he go? He stared at the abandoned building, and the broken sword attracted his attention. Buzz. He was about to force his way in, but he was blocked by the broken sword. You want to stop me? He attacked with all his strength, but the halo was extremely hard and couldn't be shaken at all. Dong. He was forced to retreat. After stabilizing his body, he took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "What is here?" He continued to attack with more strength, but after an hour, he gave up. He thought that the abandoned building must be very dangerous. Perhaps Fang Chen had already died in it. It wasn't easy to enter the ancient mansion, so he naturally couldn't waste time. What kind of terrifying demon was suppressed in this mansion that even the patriarch was a little afraid of? Perhaps there would be an opportunity. Let's go and take a look elsewhere. The patriarch of the monster race said in a deep voice. Where the White Ape clan was. White Ape stood with his hands behind his back, looking at the cave of the annihilating dragon. Is he going to come out? White Ape muttered to himself. The ancient mansion opened and Fang Chen entered, which meant that he was finally going to see the light of day again. He had a lot of thoughts in his heart, and he didn't know whether it was good or bad. Grandpa Bai. Bai One and his 2 brothers walked over. Since Grandpa Bai asked him to go to the cave of the annihilating dragon to train, you should have thought of this, right? Bai One was very smart and guessed White Ape's meaning. Ha. White Ape chuckled and didn't say anything. However, the complicated look in his eyes was caught by the 3 brothers. Grandpa Bai, what are you worried about? Baio asked. Why don't the 3 of us go to the cave of the annihilating dragon? Obviously, Bai 3 thought that White Ape was worried about Fang Chen's safety. The 3 of you don't understand. White Ape said earnestly, the world is about to change. Maybe soon, darkness will come, and the primitive tribes will come out again. There's not much time left for you. Work hard in cultivation. Hearing this, the 3 brothers' faces suddenly changed. The reappearance of the primitive tribes was a shocking event. They vaguely felt that this matter had something to do with Fang Chen. "Grandpa Bai, what happened?" Bai One asked hurriedly. Their cultivation was too low to sense what was happening in the cave of the annihilating dragon, but White Ape was different. He was the guardian of the White Ape clan and often shuttled through the cave of the annihilating dragon, so he knew the cave like the back of his hand. White Ape's eyes were deep as he looked into the distance. After a long time, he sighed and turned to leave, leaving behind the three brothers with a confused look. "Big brother, what should we do?" Bai Three asked. "I'm worried that something will happen to Fang Chen." "Everything is going according to Big Brother," Bai said. Chapter 37:30. In the abandoned building. Fang Chen noticed something strange as soon as he came in. He felt that the perfect bloodline in his body was surging out uncontrollably. What's going on? Such a thing had never happened since he came to the origin world. Buzz. The vast perfect bloodline power instantly filled the entire abandoned building. At this time, Fang Chen was shocked to find that the blood-red aura had formed a powerful defensive halo around the abandoned building. At this time, a deafening voice rang out. Fang Chen raised his head abruptly and was shocked to discover that a faintly discernible figure had appeared in the void. "This is..." Fang Chen was shocked. He rubbed his eyes hard and looked again. However, the faintly discernible silhouette became even more real. "Welcome to the Kingdom of Blood." Blood-red hair fluttered in the air. An old man with a walking stick said in a mechanical voice. "Kingdom of Blood?" Fang Chen was puzzled. Where was this place? Hiss. Hiss. A series of faint noises came from the void. The blood-red-haired old man landed on the ground with his walking stick. After he sensed the aura of the perfect bloodline on Fang Chen's body, his eyes lit up. He smiled and said, "Little fellow, can you completely release the power of your bloodline?" Fang Chen was stunned for a moment and then nodded. Boom. Boom. The vast perfect bloodline power gushed out and was released in a short while. Seeing this scene, the old man with blood-red hair was extremely excited. "It's really a perfect bloodline, and it's so rich." He seemed to see a glimmer of hope and was extremely excited. "Senior, may I ask where this place is?" Fang Chen restrained his aura and asked with cupped fists. The aura in the abandoned building calmed down. The old man with blood-red hair also suppressed his excitement and said slowly, "This is the Kingdom of Blood." What was the Kingdom of Blood? In fact, it was created by an expert called Blood. The place where Fang Chen was at seemed to be an abandoned building, but it was actually the periphery of the Kingdom of Blood. Only when one's bloodline reached a certain level of strength could they be recognized by the Kingdom of Blood and enter it. Created by an expert. Fang Chen frowned. Since the old man knew about the perfect bloodline, the expert who created the Kingdom of Blood must also know about it. He suddenly looked at the old man warily. After all, this was the origin world, the territory of the demon-devouring race. He could not be careless. Otherwise, he would become a sinner of the chaotic realm. "Little friend, don't worry." As if he could see Fang Chen's worry, the old man grinned and said, "You have the perfect bloodline. Even if Master was alive, he would be overjoyed." Moreover, the old man said that the purpose of the kingdom was to find the most powerful bloodline in the world. And the perfect bloodline was precisely one of them. Fang was shocked. Could it be that there was a powerful bloodline in this world that was on par with the perfect bloodline? What the old man said next shocked Fang Chen. The old man stroked his beard and spoke with fervor and assurance. "Strictly speaking, the perfect bloodline is not born naturally, but artificially created. This is also the reason why the perfect bloodline is known as the most powerful bloodline in the world. After all, human strength is limited, and it is rare to see someone create such a powerful bloodline. Other bloodlines that are comparable to the perfect bloodline are born naturally. Strictly speaking, they may not be as powerful as the perfect bloodline, but their advantage is that they are born naturally. As long as this world still exists, they can constantly absorb the power of the world to replenish their bloodline power. The endless supply of energy was the greatest advantage of a bloodline that was naturally nurtured by the heavens and earth." "I see." Fang Chen sighed. The world was so big that nothing was too strange. He suddenly thought of the primitive tribes. This tribe was born from the heavens and earth and had always been fighting against the devouring demons. Were they the bloodlines born from the heavens and earth that the elder spoke of? Although the bloodlines born naturally are precious, they can still be found. At least in the origin world, there are more than 2 of them. The old man continued. Fang Chen was dumbfounded. There are more than 2 of them in the origin world. You should already know about one of them. They are the primitive race in the life-forbidden zone. As for the other one, it is the demon-devouring bloodline. According to the old man's explanation, the most powerful demon-devouring bloodline came from the demon-devouring patriarch himself. Moreover, the old man also revealed a secret. The demon-devouring patriarch was also a creature born naturally. His bloodline had reached the level of atavism and was very powerful. Fang Chen nodded. He could understand. After all, he had been absorbing the Chaos Realm's providence for so many years. It was understandable that the demon-devouring patriarch's bloodline had become stronger. The purpose of the Blood Kingdom's existence is to find excellent bloodlines and help them complete their transformation. The old man pointed at Fang Chen and said, "You have the perfect bloodline, but it has not transformed to the extreme. Therefore, when you entered the ancient mansion, the Blood Kingdom sensed you and entered here." "Senior, who created this ancient mansion?" The old man shook his head. "You will naturally know after you complete your transformation." Obviously, the old man was not willing to tell Fang Chen now. "Then how do I complete my transformation?" Fang Chen asked. The old man had no ill intentions towards him. Since that was the case, he should use this opportunity to transform his bloodline. Buzz! A blood-red light shot out from the old man's walking stick and instantly enveloped the entire old building. In the next instant, the old building turned into a sea of blood. The old man stood in the middle of it and stared at Fang Chen. "If you want to be recognized by the Blood Kingdom, you must pass 3 major tests. I want to tell you that these 3 tests are very dangerous. You may even die in them. Do you dare to accept them?" Faced with the old man's question, Fang Chen pondered for a moment, then looked up and asked, "Senior, if I pass the tests, will I be able to obtain the opportunity of the Blood Kingdom?" The old man nodded. "Those who pass the tests will be able to refine the essence of the Blood Kingdom. At that time, your perfect bloodline will naturally be transformed. However, before you make your choice, I have to remind you that there have been a total of 9 people who have come to the country of blood over the years. Only one of them has passed the 3 great tests. The other 8 have all died in the tests." Hearing this, Fang Chen's expression changed. Was there only one person who succeeded? No, the person who passed the 3 tests died in the transformation of his bloodline. Hearing this, Fang Chen could not help but be greatly shocked. Chapter 37-31. Over the countless years, a total of 9 people had come to the country of blood. However, only one person had passed the test. The other 8 had all died in the test. One could imagine how dangerous the country of blood's test was. However, even if one passed the test and received the inheritance, there was still great danger in the bloodline transformation. At least, he knew from the old man that the only person who passed the test did not manage to walk out of the country of blood in the end and died in the bloodline transformation. At this moment, Fang Chen began to hesitate and wanted to retreat. If he was alone, he would naturally give it a try since it was not easy for him to encounter such an opportunity. However, it was different now. He was carrying the hope of the entire Chaos Realm on his shoulders. He vaguely remembered the expression on the great sage's face when he sent him to the end of the reincarnation road and let him experience reincarnation and come to the origin world with his memories. He knew too many secrets of an expert like the great sage. His expression was very solemn, as if it was extremely difficult to turn the situation around. Fang Chen thought of his wife and children who were still waiting for him in the Chaos Realm. There were also his father, brothers, friends, and so on. For a moment, his expression kept changing. "How is it? Have you thought it through?" The old man with the crutch asked with a smile. He admired Fang Chen very much. Although he had the perfect bloodline, he did not make a decision immediately. Instead, he was seriously considering it. The most important thing was, He was from the Chaos realm. Fang Chen was lost in thought and did not hear the old man's question. The old man did not seem to be in a hurry and just waited for him. A monstrous sea of blood filled the entire void. This was the country of blood, and the smell of blood filled the sky. The old man with the crutch stood in the air, and a blood-red vortex gradually formed around him. There was a terrifying power in the vortex. This power came from the tremors in the depths of the primordial spirit. Buzz. All of a sudden, the perfect bloodline in Fang Chen's body surged wildly. It seemed to be a little afraid of this power, but also a little curious at the same time. He suddenly woke up, and his heart trembled. He looked up at the void. I agree. In the end, Fang Chen decided to pass the test. Him coming to the origin world was a very risky thing to do in the first place. Moreover, his goal was to transform into a perfect bloodline. Now that he finally had an opportunity, how could he miss it? Thinking of this, he immediately nodded in agreement. After that, he asked, "Senior, may I ask what the 3 tests are?" Hearing this, the elder with the walking stick laughed out loud, admiring Fang Chen's courage. The 3 tests were created by the master himself according to the different strengths of the bloodlines in the world. As he spoke, the old man with the crutch pointed behind him. There was a blood-red vortex there, and a frightening aura was being emitted from it. Stay in this blood-colored vortex for 3 days and 3 nights. If you don't die, then it's considered a success. The old man said, "Of course, this blood-colored vortex contains an extremely powerful blood essence. You can try to absorb it and then refine it. It will be greatly beneficial to you. Opportunity and danger coexist." That was the current situation. Fang Chen nodded. Then, with a leap, he jumped into the crimson vortex. Boom! The blood-red vortex closed and slowly rotated. The old man with the crutch waved his hand, and a cloud appeared in the void. He lay on it and looked at the blood-red vortex lazily. With a perfect bloodline, I should be able to pass the first test easily, right? He muttered to himself. Boom! 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 Fang Chen felt his vision darken, and then he heard a deafening roar. When he saw the scene in front of him clearly, he had already entered a boundless sea of fire. Hiss! The temperature in the sea of fire was extremely high, and he felt that he was about to be refined. Moreover, the vortex contained an invisible killing intent that constantly attacked Fang Chen's primordial spirit. Bang! Fang Chen could not dodge in time and was hit by the invisible killing intent. His primordial spirit shook, and he fell to the ground. It hurts. Fang Chen held his head with both hands and lost consciousness for a short time. However, he was a saint, and his recovery ability was very strong. In the blink of an eye, he regained consciousness and used his origin power to avoid the attacks of the blood-red vortex. After a while, he gradually familiarized himself with the environment. Suddenly, he felt the blood essence that the old man with a walking stick had mentioned. A trace of blood-red aura was looming in the void. Fang Chen's palm accidentally touched a trace of it, and it was absorbed into his body in an instant. Buzz! The perfect bloodline surged wildly, and in the blink of an eye, it refined it and absorbed its power. At this moment, Fang Chen discovered an amazing change in the perfect bloodline. He widened his eyes. This blood essence was much more powerful than the demon-devouring blood, and it could help the perfect bloodline transform. As expected. He licked his dry lips, and a smile of excitement appeared in his eyes. If he could absorb a large amount of blood essence, the perfect bloodline would definitely transform. Continue. Thinking of this, he directly released the perfect bloodline and crazily absorbed the blood essence between heaven and earth. In the kingdom of blood. The old man with a walking stick lying on his back in the clouds could see through the blood-red vortex and see everything inside. When he saw Fang Chen absorbing and refining the blood essence, a smile finally appeared on his calm face. Good comprehension. The old man with a walking stick commented. Rumble. At this moment, the old man with a walking stick felt the space shake. Immediately, his face turned gloomy. Noisy. Someone actually dared to attack the kingdom of blood. He was courting death. He waved his walking stick, and in an instant, It turned into a monstrous wave that blasted toward the place where he was attacked. At the same time, in front of the old building in the ancient mansion. "I don't believe that you can hide here forever," the ancestor of the monster race said coldly. He kept bombarding the old building over and over again, trying to force Fang Chen out. However, just as he was about to attack again, a crazy blood-red aura suddenly escaped from the old building. When he felt that something was wrong, it was already too late. The blood-red aura instantly shrouded him, and he desperately tried to escape. Rip! One of his arms was corroded by the blood-red aura. Not good. He screamed loudly, and at the same time, he gritted his teeth and smashed his corroded arm with a palm. That was how he survived. Hiss! The broken arm fell to the ground and turned into a pool of pus in an instant. He retreated a long distance before he could stabilize his body. His face was ferocious, and when he saw this scene, his heart was filled with infinite fear. What exactly is here? Just the blood-red aura alone was enough to break his arm. This was too terrifying. Could it be the great demon that the ancestor said was suppressed here? Chapter 37-32. In the sea of blood, Fang Chen sat cross-legged. Around him, there was a looming blood essence that was slowly being absorbed into his body. At this moment, the perfect bloodline also completely erupted and was abnormally active. Every time it absorbed a bit of blood essence, it would transform. If he continued in this way, it wouldn't take long for him to pass the test. Hiss! At this moment, Fang Chen's blood essence was channeled to his abdomen by the perfect bloodline and gradually condensed. Buzz! Fang Chen's mind trembled, and at the same time, he also knew the test of this level. Only by condensing a fist-sized blood essence could he pass the test. Is that so? Fang Chen muttered to himself, immediately closed his eyes and continued to absorb. Time passed bit by bit. After an unknown period of time, Fang Chen felt a shock in his abdomen. Then, he suddenly looked down and found a fist-sized red ball in his abdomen. This red ball contained an extremely rich blood essence. It's so rich. Fang Chen couldn't help but exclaim. If he absorbed all the blood essence, his strength would definitely skyrocket. Did I pass the test? Fang Chen muttered to himself and couldn't help but want to go to the second level. However, at this moment, a sudden change occurred. The fist-sized red ball suddenly began to spread. What's going on? Fang Chen exclaimed and tried to suppress the spread, but to no avail. In the blink of an eye, the red ball had completely spread. Huh! At this moment, Fang Chen discovered a shocking scene. In his body, the 4 origin forces suddenly appeared and intercepted the blood essence in his major meridians. This is... He widened his eyes and was shocked. The origin forces were actually absorbing the blood essence, and he could clearly feel that after absorbing the blood essence, the 4 origins seemed to have become more vigorous. Could it be? Fang Chen rolled his eyes and was overjoyed. He increased his efforts to absorb the blood essence. In the next few days, he finally confirmed his thoughts. It turned out that the blood essence could not only promote the transformation of the perfect bloodline, but also improve his comprehension of the origin forces. Until now, he had comprehended 4 types of origin sources: metal, water, fire, and earth. He had already comprehended the first 3 origins to perfection. Only the earth origin was still at the entry level. As such, the effect of the earth origin was the most obvious. Wang! An earthy yellow aura surged around him, forming a powerful defensive halo that blocked the attack of the monstrous blood sea. The blood essence that was absorbed into the body was an endless source of power for the origin of earth. Gradually, Fang Chen's body formed a virtuous cycle. This scene, even the old man with the crutch was dumbfounded. You can actually do this? When he was stationed here, 9 people had come to the country of blood. The first stage was extremely difficult for them, unlike Fang Chen. Maybe it's because of the perfect bloodline. The old man with the walking stick muttered to himself. The perfect bloodline was the most heaven-defying bloodline in the world. Perhaps its existence had subtly changed Fang Chen's potential and constitution. This was why he could absorb the essence of the blood so easily. What a lucky guy! The old man with the crutch couldn't help but praise. The essence of the blood was very precious, especially for the experts at the sage level. It was comparable to the supreme technique. If it was in the outside world, even a drop would cause a shocking war. But in the country of blood, Fang Chen could absorb the essence of the blood without restraint. This guy is really extravagant. The old man with the crutch stared at Fang Chen for a while and couldn't help but shake his head. Others said to absorb as much essence of the blood as possible to pass the stage. This guy was not in a hurry at all. Instead, he was using the essence of the blood to refine the 5 elements. However, he had to admit, in the same generation, Fang Chen's potential was unparalleled. No one could beat him. Comprehending 4 origins at the same time and having the perfect bloodline, this was already heaven-defying enough. I don't know if he can comprehend the 5th origin. The old man with the crutch said. Of course, he wasn't very optimistic. After all, since ancient times, there was almost no one who comprehended the 5 origins at the same time. As for the flies in the outside world, the old man with the crutch didn't care at all. It was simply a fool's dream to want to break into the country of blood. Endless time and space echoed. The world was vast and full of strange things. Because of this, there was such a wonderful and dangerous forbidden area like the Chaos Battlefield. Chaotic Realm, God's Fall Battlefield. When Lu Chen stepped onto the reincarnation road and was reborn in the origin world to seek hope, all the top experts stepped into the Chaos Battlefield in an attempt to break through to a higher level and contribute to the upcoming war. At the end of the reincarnation road, the great sovereign sat there quietly. Dong! A deafening roar burst out from the Chaos Battlefield and spread across the place. Everyone was shocked. However, the great sovereign sighed. Another one died. His gaze passed through the reincarnation road and saw the scene in every corner of the God's Fall Battlefield. More and more demon devourers infiltrated the God's Fall Battlefield through the Chaos Battlefield and started a massacre. Just as the great sovereign was scanning, he suddenly found a group of people trying to open the seal of the ancient chaos. Fang Chen is the last hope of the chaotic realm. He shouldered a heavy responsibility and reincarnated in the origin world to seek hope. How can I let you destroy his hometown? Fang Chen's wife, children, and brothers were all in the ancient chaos. Because the situation on the God's Fall Battlefield was too chaotic. And the great sovereign often paid attention to the ancient chaos. Die! The great sovereign spat out a word. Suddenly, a vast aura shot out from the reincarnation road and condensed into a palm print in the endless void, blasting toward the edge of the ancient chaos. Big brother, there is a seal here. How do we open it? At this time, the group was thinking. There might be a supreme treasure inside. Let's join forces and try attacking it, another person said. Humph, a mere sinner's land can't stop us brothers at all. In an instant, the group made a decision to join forces to attack the seal. However, at this moment, dark clouds suddenly covered the sky and a terrifying power swept through the world. A vast palm print swooped down. Suddenly, the demon devourers were unable to move. What is that? Their hearts were filled with horror as they felt the aura of death approaching. They wanted to escape, but there was nothing they could do. Not good. The leader shouted, but it was too late. A palm print enveloped them, instantly annihilating them. After that, peace was restored here again, as if nothing had happened. Chapter 37-33. The great sovereign's attack shocked the entire God Fall battlefield. Especially the devouring demon clan who were slaughtering the creatures of the Chaos realm. Their actions came to an abrupt halt. What's going on? What happened just now? Why do I feel the suppression of the heavenly Tao? What a terrifying power. It can suppress us to such an extent even though we are so far away. Could it be, at this moment? In every corner of the Chaos realm, the devouring demon clan were trembling. They seemed to have guessed something. Is it the supremacy of the sinners? But soon, they rejected this idea. Because, if it was a supremacy, they would have died long ago. But now, that giant hand was only destroying a certain area, so it couldn't be a supremacy. Moreover, the Chaos realm and the origin world had been fighting fiercely for so many years. If the Chaos realm had a supremacy, it wouldn't have declined to such an extent. Let's go. At the same time, many of the devouring demon clan retreated to the Chaos Realm. Although they guessed that the Great Sovereign was not a supremacy, he was at least a half-step chaotic supremacy, so they were still a little wary. At the end of the reincarnation road, the Great Sovereign's eyes were clear as he looked at every corner of the Chaos Realm. He sighed. This was the only thing he could do. He could only hope that Fang Chen could complete the transformation of the perfect bloodline as soon as possible and successfully save the Chaos Realm. Of course, the Great Sovereign also knew that this was not something that could be done overnight. Origin World, Life Forbidden Zone, Dragon Slaying Cave. In the Kingdom of Blood. After 300 years, he finally completely comprehended the origin of Earth. At this time, Fang Chen's body was surrounded by a yellow halo, forming the strongest defense, perfectly blocking the terrifying attack contained in the Kingdom of Blood. Boom! At a certain moment, he suddenly opened his eyes. The power in his body surged rapidly. He stomped his feet and roamed in the Kingdom of Blood. He opened his big hand and madly grabbed the blood essence. Outside the Kingdom of Blood, the old man with a crutch couldn't help but exclaim. This guy, the 9 challengers before him were all bent on passing the level, so they were condensing the blood essence ball from the beginning. But Fang Chen was different. He wasn't in a hurry. Instead, he used the blood essence to comprehend the origin of Earth. Right now, he had completely comprehended the origin of Earth. This also meant that his defense had reached an extremely high level. Even blood essence couldn't hurt him. That was why he could ignore the Kingdom of Blood's attacks and take the initiative to attack and grab the blood essence. The advantage of this was that the speed at which he was able to grab the blood essence became faster and faster. In just an hour, a ball of blood essence had appeared in his abdomen. Boom! Fang Chen felt a tremor in his abdomen, and he immediately stopped grabbing. At this moment, he felt the world spinning around him. In an instant, he had left the sea of blood. Congratulations, you've passed the first stage. The old man with the crutch looked at Fang Chen with a smile. How is it? Not bad, right? Hearing this, Fang Chen nodded. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Even though it had taken him 300 years, he had at least fully comprehended the origin of Earth. At this point, he had 4 great essences and was only lacking the final wood essence. You have already comprehended 4 essences. If you can continue to comprehend the 5th essence, you will definitely be famous in the world. The old man with the crutch said. At that time, even my master may not be your opponent. At the beginning of the world, the 5 essences were derived. Very few people could gather the 5 essences in one body because the 5 essences represented 5 completely different forces. If they were forcibly gathered in one body, there would be a strong rejection. The result was that the body couldn't bear it and would explode. However, Fang Chen had the perfect bloodline, and most importantly, his comprehension was heaven-defying. The old man with the crutch was slightly moved. Perhaps this little guy in front of him could really do it. Senior, what's the second test? Fang Chen was most concerned about this. Don't worry. The old man with the crutch smiled. You have comprehended the origin of Earth for 300 years in the Sea of Blood. Now that you have just passed the test, shouldn't you consolidate it? Hearing this, Fang Chen was stunned. Only then did he realize that the power in his body was a little weak. Thank you for your reminder. Immediately after, he sat cross-legged on the ground and began to consolidate his power. In an ancient mansion. In another abandoned building. Sword Lunatic let out a long howl as he stabbed the sword in his hand into the ground. Immediately, a shocking sword chi shot into the sky. Ha ha ha, I finally succeeded. Sword Lunatic laughed crazily. After 300 years, he had finally completed his transformation and obtained the Drunken Sword inheritance. From now on, my sword Dao will be even sharper. Drunken Sword was the strongest sword cultivator in the Origin world. The sword Dao he cultivated was known as the Assassination Sword Dao. No one was willing to provoke Drunken Sword because of his unfathomable Assassination Sword Dao. Now, Sword Lunatic had received the Drunken Sword inheritance and the incomplete Drunken Sword manual. Strictly speaking, he could be considered as a disciple of Drunken Sword. Bang bang bang! Sword Lunatic knelt on the ground and kowtowed 3 times to Drunken Sword. Since I have obtained your inheritance, then from now on, I will walk the world with the name of Drunken Sword Successor. Master, don't worry, I will definitely help you kill your enemies. After obtaining the Drunken Sword inheritance, he also understood Drunken Sword's life and how he fell. Buzz. After he said this, the Drunken Sword statue in front of him suddenly shook and then completely shattered, turning into a wisp of sword chi and entering Sword Lunatic's body. Sword Lunatic was stunned and was overjoyed. It turned out that this wisp of sword chi contained clues to the incomplete Drunken Sword manual. Ha ha ha, the heavens are on my side. If he could find the incomplete Drunken Sword manual, then he would be able to cultivate a peerless sword Dao. I said before, I will definitely become the strongest sword cultivator in the origin world. Sword Lunatic thought of Fang Chen and a sharp sword chi flashed in his eyes. Boom boom boom. At this moment, Sword Lunatic felt the vibrations and leaped into the air. The ancestor of the monster race who was attacking the country of blood noticed Sword Lunatic. His eyes were filled with a cold light and his figure flashed, appearing beside Sword Lunatic. Trespassing into my race's ancestral land and killing my people, die. The ancestor of the monster race displayed a fierce and domineering attack. Drunken Sword. Sword Lunatic felt a great pressure and used the incomplete Drunken Sword manual that he had just cultivated. Phantoms fell from the sky and pierced towards the ancestor of the monster race with unparalleled power. The ancestor of the monster race was knowledgeable and recognized Drunken Sword. Drunken Sword. He was shocked and at the same time, he was shocked to find that this place was filled with Drunken Sword chi. Could the Drunken Sword inheritance be here? You obtained the Drunken Sword inheritance. The ancestor of the monster race's eyes flashed with a trace of greed. Search Prestige's official account. Qingsha whispers, there's an exception. Chapter 37-34. Drunken Sword was one of the top sword Dao cultivators in the origin world. His attainments in the sword Dao had reached an unimaginable level, and he had even been praised by the demon-devouring patriarch. One could only imagine. How strong was he? He had created his own Drunken Sword Dao, using wine as a medium and a sword to display amazing sword techniques. However, many years ago, Drunken Sword had mysteriously disappeared. After another 100 years, news spread that Drunken Sword had fallen. At that time, this news had swept through the entire origin world. Everyone was scrambling to find the Drunken Sword inheritance. There was a saying back then. Whoever could obtain the Drunken Sword inheritance would definitely become the new sword saint. The Drunken Sword inheritance. The eyes of the monster race's patriarch flashed with a burning look. It was here. He licked his dry lips and smiled sinisterly. Then, he waved his hand and instantly rushed in front of Sword Maniac. Not good. When Sword Maniac found the monster race's patriarch, it was already too late. He wanted to escape, but the void had been sealed, so he could only desperately resist. Kill. With nowhere to run, he could only choose to fight with his life. At this moment, he completely displayed the incomplete Drunken Sword manual that he had comprehended not long ago. Every sword was like a beautiful firework, causing people to tremble. Rumble. A deafening sound resounded through the sky. When all the sword lights converged, a dazzling light burst out. At the same time, Sword Maniac leaped and fled. Want to escape? The monster race's patriarch sneered. In this ancient mansion, he was an invincible existence, and no one could escape from under his nose. Whoosh! The monster race's patriarch chased after him. Fang Chen, who was in the Kingdom of Blood, naturally did not know what was happening in the ancient mansion. Whoosh! He slowly opened his eyes. In the first test, he had completely comprehended the origin of Earth. After passing the test, he had consolidated his cultivation here. Finally, his cultivation had stepped into the 8th level Saint realm. Whoosh! Fang Chen breathed a sigh of relief, and a smile appeared on his face. Back then, in the Chaos realm, his cultivation had already reached the level of an invincible saint, and his combat strength was close to that of an invincible saint. However, after his reincarnation, his cultivation had fallen to 1st level Holy King. After countless years of bitter cultivation, he had finally returned to the 8th order. With my current strength, I should be able to kill a 9th order saint easily. Fang Chen muttered to himself. If he were to face an invincible saint, it would still be somewhat difficult. This was because the heavenly Tao of the origin world was very complete. The cultivation environment here was very good, and there were many resources. Their foundations were very solid, and their comprehension of the 5 great origins had all reached an extremely deep level. It was common knowledge. In a battle between saints, one's cultivation level was only one aspect. Origin energy was the most important method to determine victory and defeat. In the same cultivation realm, as long as one's comprehension of the origin was greater than one's, one would be able to crush one's opponent. This was also the reason why, in this environment, Fang Chen was still able to fight above his level. That was because he possessed 4 types of origins and had even undergone the baptism of the country of blood. Only the last wood origin was left, and he would be able to gather all 5 origins. Not bad, not bad. The old man with a walking stick suddenly appeared and looked at Fang Chen with a grin. He was very satisfied with Fang Chen's performance. Your realm has been completely consolidated. Do you want to take the second test? There were a total of 3 tests. Although it was extremely dangerous, Fang Chen had already learned his lesson from the first test and gained a lot. He naturally had to continue. Fang Chen nodded, indicating that he was willing to continue. However, at this moment, the old man with a walking stick suddenly turned his head to look outside. From which immediately, he snorted coldly, seemingly a little displeased. How dare you fight in this mansion? You must be tired of living. The old man with a walking stick said coldly. Then, he turned his head to look at Fang Chen. Now, in the ancient mansion, there was a sword Dao cultivator fighting with the patriarch of the monster race. Fang Chen was shocked. The sword Dao cultivator should be sword lunatic. The patriarch of the monster race actually found sword lunatic. However, this seemed to have nothing to do with him. This mansion was of great importance. If they continued to fight, it would attract a terrifying existence. So if you want to explore the country of blood quietly, you have to stop their battle. The old man with a walking stick said. Stop. Fang Chen frowned. What kind of terrifying existence was in this ancient mansion? If even the old man with a walking stick was afraid, it was obvious that if that terrifying existence was attracted, the country of blood might also be affected. I'm willing. After thinking for a moment, Fang Chen nodded and agreed. He had a blood feud with the patriarch of the monster race. Now that he was affecting his baptism of the country of blood, he naturally had to stop him. Okay, I'll let you out now. The old man with a walking stick said. After you suppress or drive him away, I'll bring you in. Whoosh. As he spoke, a ripple appeared in the void, followed by a void stone door. Seeing this, Fang Chen leaped and disappeared into the void stone door. Boom. When he saw the scene in front of him clearly, he felt the earth shake. Not far away, Sword Lunatic was in a sorry state and covered in blood. Behind him, the patriarch of the monster race was chasing after him. You can't escape. The patriarch of the monster race locked his aura on Sword Lunatic and sneered. I can't accept this. Sword Lunatic roared crazily. He had just received the inheritance of the drunken sword and would definitely become the new sword saint in the future. But now, he was going to die in the hands of the monster race. How could he accept this? Sword Lunatic, let's join forces and suppress him, how about it? Suddenly, Fang Chen's voice sounded in Sword Lunatic's ears. Sword Lunatic raised his head and saw Fang Chen's figure. Great! Sword Lunatic, who had fallen into despair, was suddenly overjoyed and quickly came to Fang Chen's side. Swoosh! Fang Chen displayed the heaven-slashing 5 swords, and a terrifying sword light crisscrossed. The patriarch of the monster race was caught off guard and was forced to retreat by the sword light. Bang! 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 The sword light shattered and the void was torn apart as a terrifying power surged. After the patriarch of the monster race stabilized his body, he finally saw Fang Chen. It's you. His face was hideous and he gritted his teeth, wishing that he could tear Fang Chen into pieces. There was a path to heaven, but you didn't take it and barged into hell. I was just about to find you to avenge my dead clansmen, but you came to me yourself. The patriarch of the monster race said coldly. Today, none of you can escape. Rumble. A terrifying aura locked onto Fang Chen and Sword Lunatic. Sword Lunatic's face was solemn, while Fang Chen was relatively indifferent. He shrugged and said, "Why should I escape? You should be the one running, right?" Facing Fang Chen's provocation, the patriarch of the monster race was furious. Please remember the domain name of this book, .com wonderful book mobile version website, .com. Chapter 37-35. The monster race and Fang Chen had an irreconcilable feud. This time, he had trespassed into the monster race's lair and even messed up their ancestral hall. Now, the ancestor of the monster race was enraged when he saw him. "Damn you, I'm going to tear you into pieces." The ancestor of the demonic beasts growled as he spread out his claws. A terrifying force rose up into the sky, and a terrifying aura locked onto Fang Chen and Madman Jian. Kill. With Fang Chen's help, the pressure on Sword Maniac was greatly reduced. He once again displayed the Drunken Sword Remnant Manual. Fierce and domineering sword techniques crisscrossed. At the same time, Fang Chen also displayed the Heaven-Severing 5 swords. Heaven-Severing Golden Sword, Heaven-Severing Water Sword, Heaven-Severing Fire Sword, and finally Heaven-Severing Earth Sword. When these 4 swords were fully displayed, Fang Chen's body was surrounded by an earthy yellow aura, forming a thick armor. At the same time, the other 3 swords contained 3 different types of origin energy and shot towards the ancestor of the monster race. Even Sword Maniac was a little surprised by this scene. He thought that after receiving the Drunken Sword inheritance, his attainments in the Sword Dao had reached an extremely high level. But now, seeing Fang Chen's swordsmanship, he was greatly shocked. How is this possible? Sword Maniac cried out involuntarily. The 4 major sword lights were deeply imprinted in his mind. He could not believe that there was such a powerful swordsmanship in the world. How can it be so strong? In comparison, his Drunken Sword Remnant Manual was overshadowed. But soon, he came back to his senses. The most important thing now was not to think about why Fang Chen's swordsmanship was so powerful. The most important reason was to defeat the ancestor of the monster race and then escape from this place. Buzz. The 2 sword cultivators joined forces to display the most powerful swordsmanship and went straight for the ancestor of the monster race. Although the latter was a peak 9th level sage, he was still shocked by this sudden turn of events. Could it be? He was very clear about the Drunken Sword inheritance. Although it was magical, it was still a saint-level swordsmanship. However, Fang Chen's swordsmanship made him tremble from the depths of his primordial spirit. This was not an aura that could be released by an ordinary sword technique. He suspected that Fang Chen's swordsmanship was the legendary supreme skill. Is it the supreme technique? At this moment, he looked at Fang Chen with a burning gaze. Whoosh! The crisscrossing sword radiance was bewildering and confusing. The patriarch of the demonic beast race was forced to retreat continuously while exerting his full strength. He abruptly struck out several palms, each of which contained an extremely powerful force. Boom! When the palm print and the sword light collided, there was a deafening sound. The entire ancient mansion seemed like it was about to fall apart. At this moment, Fang Chen unleashed his trump card. His perfect bloodline instantly spread out, and a terrifying power was injected into the Spirit Slayer sword. Then, he forcefully merged the 4 sword moves together. Dong dong dong! Heaven and earth trembled. When the 4 sword radiance intertwined and merged together, the entire sky seemed to be completely silent. You're courting death. The patriarch of the demonic beast race also felt a trace of danger. He wanted to quickly get rid of Fang Chen and then kill Sword Maniac. However, at this moment, Sword Maniac roared and rushed towards the patriarch of the demonic beast race. I'll buy time for you. Sword Maniac roared. He also realized that Fang Chen was the only one who could resolve the situation. Therefore, he did his best to entangle the patriarch of the demonic beast race. Boom! The patriarch of the demonic beast race blasted a palm on Sword Maniac's body. The latter's body was heavily smashed to the ground, spitting out blood, and his face was pale. However, he did not give up. He suddenly got up from the ground and continued to fight. Die! A trace of coldness flashed in the patriarch of the demonic beast race's eyes. He immediately unleashed his strongest attack, wanting to kill Sword Maniac. Whoosh! Rays of light fell from the sky. The 4 different origin forces actually covered the sword radiance at the same time, resonating with each other. It was extremely difficult to merge the 4 origin forces. The current Fang Chen could not do it at all. However, he could use the sky-severing 5 swords to ingeniously complete a short fusion. The power of this sword was too strong. The patriarch of the demonic beast race, who was fighting with Sword Maniac, raised his head and his face changed drastically. Not good. He subconsciously moved his body to the side, wanting to dodge. However, it was too late. The sword radiance had already locked onto him. Sword Maniac did not want to waste this opportunity. He rushed forward and blocked the patriarch of the demonic beast race's escape route. Rumble. The rumbling sound from the ancient mansion caused the entire nest of the demonic beast race to tremble. What's happening? Is the sky collapsing? It must be the patriarch killing the outsiders who sneaked in. The demonic beast race guarding this place had various expressions on their faces. Some of them were worried, while others were confident that their patriarch would definitely be able to defeat the enemy. Guard carefully. If there are outsiders who dare to come within 100 meters of the valley, kill them without mercy. The leader ordered. At the same time, he personally guarded the underground passage in the ancestral hall. He could vaguely feel the terrifying power coming from the underground passage. It made him tremble. In the ancient mansion. Whoosh. When the 10,000 Zhonglong sword light ruthlessly hacked down on the body of the monstrous beast clan's ancestor, the monstrous beast clan's ancestor raised his head to the sky and let out a long roar of anger. At the same time, his claws were broken and blood spurted out. Thud, thud, thud. He took a few steps back and his face was extremely pale. The sword radiance just now almost took his life. Damn it. He gritted his teeth and stared at Fang Chen with a ferocious expression. The biggest threat to him was Fang Chen. He did not expect that this guy's strength had increased to such a level after not seeing him for such a long time. We must kill him. The patriarch of the demonic beast race said coldly. If he continued to grow, it would not take long for his combat strength to surpass him. By then, the entire race would be destroyed in his hands. Buzz. A black halo was emitted from the patriarch of the demonic beast race. In an instant, the world lost its color. At the same time, Sword Maniac came to Fang Chen's side. What should we do? Sword Maniac asked in a low voice. The hope of escaping was on Fang Chen. Therefore, he was focused on fighting the enemy and did not have any other thoughts. As for Fang Chen, his goal was to defeat the patriarch of the demonic beast race, to ensure that the country of blood would not be affected. As for the patriarch of the demonic beast race, even if he escaped now, he would be able to kill him after he completed the 3 tests of the country of blood. Fang Chen took a deep breath. With a solemn expression, he said in a deep voice, "Give me 10 seconds. I'll set up a formation. As long as the formation is successfully set up, I'm confident that I can defeat it. 767E, 5EA6, 641C, 7D22, 3010, 4E91, 6765, 9601, 3011, 5C0F, 8BF4, 7F51, 7AD9, FF0C, 8BA9, 4F60, 4F53, 9A8C, 66F4, 65B0, 6700, 65B0, 6700, 5 February, 7684, 7AE0, 8282, 5C0F, 8BF4, FF0C, 6240, 6709, 5C0F, 8BF4, 79D2, 66F4, 65B0, 3002. Chapter 3736. In just 10 seconds, Fang Chen would be able to set up a formation to trap the ancestor of the monster race. Then, the two of them would join forces to encircle the ancestor of the monster race. Fang Chen was confident that he could defeat it. All right. After thinking for a moment, Sword Maniac nodded heavily. Although there was a risk in doing so, if he could not resist the ancestor of the monster race's frenzied attack, then what awaited him would be death. But Fang Chen was different. If he saw that the situation was not good, he could escape. However, Sword Maniac agreed in the end. Putting aside the fact that Fang Chen was much stronger than him, it would be extremely difficult for him to escape from the eyes of the monstrous beast race's patriarch. Instead of waiting for death, it was better to give it a try. He leaped and arrived in front of the ancestor of the monster race. "Stupid guy, since you want to die, I'll tear you apart first and then kill him." Seeing this, the ancestor of the monster race smiled sinisterly and waved his hand. A terrifying power swept through the world. He stomped his foot and his entire being was in a state of extreme excitement. At this time, the ancestor of the monster race's strength was fully displayed. Boom! Every time he struck out with his palm, it would bring great pressure to Sword Lunatic. However, Sword Maniac did not give up and continued to struggle. Kill! The ancestor of the monster race turned into his original form and opened his mouth. A terrifying suction force instantly enveloped Sword Maniac and wanted to suck him into his stomach. Condense! Sword Maniac roared and waved the long sword in his hand. He fully displayed the Drunken Sword Remnant manual and formed a terrifying defensive shield around his body. The sword-shaped armor covered his entire body and blocked the early attacks of the monster race. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Fang Chen began to set up a formation. When he was in the Chaos Realm, he was good at formations and his attainments in the Tao of Formations had reached an astonishing level. Now, he quickly filtered through his mind and finally decided on the formation he was going to set up. This formation was called the Young Annihilating Formation. This formation was a top saint-level formation. Once it was set up, few people below the invincible saint realm could break it. And, most importantly, it was the same as before. This formation was very effective in restraining the power of the monster race's ancestor. Wang. The patriarch of the monster race seemed to have sensed the danger as well. Hence, he increased the intensity of his attacks, wanting to kill Lunatic Gen as soon as possible. Scram! The array foundation spread out and drilled into the ground. The core of the array formation was also rapidly taking shape. The patriarch of the demonic beasts began to panic. He slammed his palm on Lunatic Swordsman's body, shattering the sword-shaped armor. Dong! Swordsman's body smashed onto the ground as blood spurted out. However, he still stood up resolutely and stood in front of the demonic beast patriarch. 3 more seconds. For ordinary people, 3 seconds passed in a flash. However, to saint-level experts, 3 seconds was enough to destroy a part of the world. To the Sword Lunatic, 3 seconds was no different from wandering around the gates of hell. The slightest carelessness would result in death. Bang bang bang! Seeing this, the patriarch of the demonic beast race threw out dozens of palms in a frenzy. Without the protection of the sword-shaped armor, Sword Maniac was hit by the dozens of palms and his body was pierced through. He was lying in a pool of blood, dying. As long as I'm still alive. Sword Lunatic was in a sorry state. He struggled to get up and said in a hoarse voice. There was only 1 second left. Fang Chen was setting up the array formation. This was their last hope. He had to stall for time. You're courting death. The patriarch of the demonic beast race roared and threw out countless palms again, trying to end Sword Lunatic's life. At this moment, rays of light shot out in all directions as a terrifying power swept across the world. The Young Annihilating Array was completed. Buzz! The core of the Young Annihilating Array and the Array Foundation completely merged together, forming an extremely powerful halo that instantly blocked the palm attack of the patriarch of the demonic beast race. As for Fang Chen, he quickly pulled Sword Lunatic to the side. Phew! Sword Lunatic heaved a sigh of relief as his eyes were filled with endless light. The array formation had been successfully set up. His mission was completed and he saw the hope of escaping. Kill! Fang Chen held the Spirit Slayer sword in his hand and displayed the heaven-severing Penta sword. Because of the suppression of the Young Annihilating Array, The strength of the patriarch of the demonic beast race was greatly reduced and was pierced through by Fang Chen's sword. How is this possible? He also felt the power of the yang annihilating array. No. He had already thought of retreating. With the array formation, it was impossible for him to kill the two people in front of him. As long as there is life, there is hope. He glanced at the yang annihilating array from the corner of his eye. Soon, he found a loophole and pretended to attack. When Fang Chen's attention was attracted, he quickly escaped through the loophole. In the blink of an eye, the patriarch of the demonic beast race had already disappeared from the ancient mansion. Dawn. The ancient mansion was resealed and completely isolated from the outside world. Buzz. The array formation dissipated. Fang Chen looked at Sword Lunatic. Thank you. Sword Lunatic cupped his fists. His aura was a little weak and he was severely injured, but not to the extent of dying. The demonic beast race will definitely be heavily guarded outside the mansion. What do you plan to do? Fang Chen asked. I'll heal here first. After my injuries are healed, I'll think of a way to leave. Sword Lunatic dragged his battered body and walked out of Fang Chen's sight. Whoosh! Fang Chen leaped and disappeared into the void. Country of blood. The old man with the walking stick looked at Fang Chen with a smile. Not bad. Your comprehension of the way of the sword has already reached an extremely high level. I have a feeling that you might be able to enter the sovereign realm with the way of the sword in the future. Ah! Fang Chen was stunned. He thought of Supreme Fu Jian who entered the supremacy realm in the sword Dao. She wondered what level his swordsmanship had reached. You're quite smart. You actually know how to use the supremacy technique to combine the four great origin forces. The old man with a walking stick shook his head. He had to admit that Fang Chen was very bold. Ordinary people wouldn't dare to forcefully combine the four great origin forces. Once they failed, they would die. However, Fang Chen was still fine. Because he had the supreme being technique, he was lucky enough to succeed. But I have to seriously advise you to use it less in the future. The old man with a walking stick said, unless you can truly master the origin fusion technique, otherwise, don't force it. The five great origin forces were the foundation of heaven and earth. They repelled each other and it was almost impossible to fuse them. Since ancient times, very few people had succeeded in fusing the five great origin forces. However, after this battle, Fang Chen saw a glimmer of hope. Although it was very slim, it was at least worth a try. Huff. He took a deep breath and gradually relaxed his body, waiting for the arrival of the second test. You've gained a lot in the first test. I hope you can do the same in the second test. The old man with a walking stick said. I won't let you down. Fang Chen nodded. He was very curious about the second test. Chapter 37-37. Country of Blood. The first test was to absorb the blood essence. The one who would benefit the most from this test was the one who took it. Fang Chen had absorbed a large amount of blood essence and perfected the origin of Earth, which wasn't perfect. Most importantly, he had broken through to the 8th order saint stage because of this. He was looking forward to the second test. The old man smiled at Fang Chen. Judging from Fang Chen's performance in the first test and the battle with the ancestor of the beasts, he had already approved of Fang Chen. Moreover, he felt that Fang Chen had a high chance of succeeding. For the second test, what you need to do is to fight the blood mantis. The old man waved his hand, and a bloody battlefield appeared in the void. The battlefield was surrounded by a blood-red halo that covered the entire battlefield. As time goes by, the number of blood puppets in the bloody battlefield will increase. The old man said, the blood in each wave of blood puppets is different. You have to survive 30 waves to pass. Blood-maned puppets were a kind of puppet created by special blood. They didn't have lives or emotions. They were born to fight. They would only disappear when they were completely destroyed. Each blood puppet contains a blood pill. Destroy the blood puppet and you can absorb the blood pill, the old man said. What I want to tell you is that you can't be careless. As time goes by, not only will the number of blood puppets increase, but their combat power will also increase. Blood puppets. Fang Chen's heart trembled. Just where did the master of the country of blood come from? How could he condense such a powerful blood puppet? And there was more than one of them. From this, it could be seen that the master of the kingdom of blood should be someone who had reached a shocking level in the bloodline Dao. Based on this point alone, he might be able to fight against Supreme Master Fu Jian. Whoosh! Fang Chen took a deep breath. He felt that there were too many secrets in the world. Since ancient times, countless chaos epochs had passed, and countless experts had been slumbering in the dark. The origin world was powerful, but experts like the owner of the country of blood weren't weak either. Even Fang Chen guessed that all of this was a game of chess set up by the masters of the primal chaos realm. All right, you can go in now. The old man's voice pulled Fang Chen's thoughts back to reality. The latter nodded, then took a step forward and entered the blood-red battlefield. Wang. As soon as Zhongxian stepped in, he immediately felt a powerful bloodthirsty aura permeating the area. So strong. Fang Chen sighed. He hadn't expected the bloody energy of the bloody battlefield to contain such a powerful killing force. It even caused his heart to waver a little. Wang. While he was lost in thought, 3 blood marmoths suddenly appeared. Is this Xue Hu? Fang Chen's pupils suddenly shrank. He could feel the powerful bloodline contained in the blood puppet's body. His perfect bloodline was also abnormally active. Kill. Then, the 3 blood marmoths began to encircle Fang Chen. Boom. The battle between the 3 blood-maned warriors didn't require any techniques. They didn't need to defend, as they just needed to attack crazily. Swoosh. When the 3 blood-maned warriors surrounded Fang Chen, they suddenly clapped their hands in front of them. Suddenly, 6 rays of blood-red light shot toward Fang Chen. Crash. Fang Chen's figure flashed, and he skillfully dodged the attack. However, he was shocked to find that the 6 rays of blood-red light instantly intertwined and merged at the place where he just stood, releasing a dazzling light that looked like a heart. Thump. Thump. The heart was beating, the blood-red battlefield was shaking, and the roar of the wind came from the void. A sense of oppression arose spontaneously. Seeing this, Fang Chen didn't intend to waste any more time. He knew that he would have to face more blood-maned warriors. Therefore, he had to end the battle quickly. The blood-maned warriors in the early stage were weak, and the special bloodline in their bodies wasn't too strong. It was easy for Fang Chen to deal with them. He released his perfect bloodline and instantly suppressed the heart. Crack. A crack appeared on the heart, and the 3 blood-maned warriors roared. However, the suppression from the bloodline made the 3 blood-maned warriors helpless against Fang Chen. In the end, boom. With 3 loud sounds, the bodies of the 3 blood-maned warriors directly exploded. Crash. 3 blood pills floated in the void, emitting a strong bloodline power. Blood pills. Fang Chen waved his hand and put the 3 blood pills into his pocket. At this time, he felt the abnormal movement of the perfect bloodline, as if it was telling him that it wanted to swallow the blood pills. You want to eat them? Fang Chen was stunned, and soon he received a response from the perfect bloodline. He put the 3 blood pills in the palm of his hand. Soon, the blood pills disappeared, and he clearly felt that the perfect bloodline's aura became stronger after swallowing the blood pills. I see. Fang Chen understood. After the blood-maned warriors collapsed, the blood pills scattered in the void were their life cause. In fact, they were similar to the blood essence in the first round of the test. They were extremely strong for special bloodlines. After discovering this, Fang Chen licked his dry lips. Come on, let me see how strong you are. Soon, the second wave of blood-maned warriors arrived. They launched an attack on Fang Chen. The bloody battlefield kept shaking. Below, the old man with a crutch looked at this scene and nodded with satisfaction. This guy's compatibility with the perfect bloodline is really high. Wave after wave of battles made Fang Chen fall into a state of numbness. He didn't know how long he had fought and how many waves of blood-maned warriors he had defeated. Finally, after holding on for a while, he sat on the ground. At this time, he was in a mess. So strong. After careful calculation, he had defeated 20 waves of blood-maned warriors. 10 more waves. From the excitement at the beginning to the helplessness now. By now, The number of blood-maned warriors had reached a new height. Every time he fought, he would be in a mess. Although he had gained a lot of blood pills after defeating the blood-maned warriors, his perfect bloodline had also evolved rapidly during this period of time. However, his strength was limited after all. In this bloody battlefield, the power of the blood-maned warriors could be increased, but his power was limited. We both have special bloodlines, but why is my power limited? Fang Chen frowned, a little confused. Was it because the blood-maned warriors weren't living beings, but he was a living being? Soon, Fang Chen denied this idea. He felt that the problem should be his use of bloodline power. He began to try to find a solution in the battle with the blood-maned warriors. As long as the bloody battlefield no longer suppressed his power, the battle would be much easier. Chapter 37-38. The night was as still as water, and the stars twinkled. Outside Piercing Cloud City, it was pitch black. The entire land seemed to be covered in a layer of silver. The quiet street was extremely empty, and there was no one in sight. At this moment, the city lord's mansion was brightly lit. In the elegant and simple study, sandalwood burned, and wisps of smoke swirled continuously before finally dissipating. Lord Fang, do you really want to challenge the Protector? Although he publicly supported Fang Chen and trusted Fang Chen very much, the person he challenged was the Protector, an expert second only to the Blood Lord. Thus, the Piercing Cloud Sect Master was still a little worried. After the meeting of the 72 cities, Fang Chen had won over many city lords with his strong performance. Now, the status of Piercing Cloud City was rising steadily. There were even rumors that when the ranking of the 72 cities in the Blood Battle territory was updated, Piercing Cloud City and Bloodfire City would both be in the top 10. This was simply a dream for the Piercing Cloud Sect Master. Back then, Piercing Cloud City could only be ranked last among the 72 cities. Any city could bully them at will. Now, it was different. Fang Chen was too strong. He killed a city lord with a flick of his finger. He even killed the strange dragon city lord, shocking the entire Blood Battle territory. And now, he even threatened to challenge the Protector. No matter what the result was, just this courage alone was worthy of admiration. A few days after the meeting, many city lords came to visit the Piercing Cloud Sect Master. They wanted to use the Piercing Cloud Sect as a breakthrough point to establish a friendly relationship with Fang Chen. Fang Chen was silent and did not speak. Instead, he focused on the book in his hand. This book was a detailed introduction of the entire Blood Battle territory. Fang Chen enunciated every word as he seriously observed. Seeing this, the Piercing Cloud Sect Master did not ask any more and waited patiently. After a long time, Fang Chen closed the book. The Protector's strength is only at the limit of the Saint Venerate realm. Fang Chen said with a grin. As long as he had not stepped into the Tribulation Venerate realm, he was confident that he could defeat the Protector. Moreover, he still had a trump card. Once he used it, he would be able to escape unscathed even if he faced a Tribulation supremacy. Most importantly, he had reached a secret agreement with the Blood Lord. Taking advantage of this opportunity to eliminate the Enforcer was the most important thing. Since Lord Fang is so confident, then my Transcendence Cloud Sect will definitely give you our full support. If Lord Fang has any needs, feel free to ask. Cloud Piercing Sect Master nodded heavily. For Piercing Cloud Sect to have its current achievements, it was all thanks to Fang Chen. Therefore, Cloud Piercing Sect Master didn't even think about it and mindlessly stood on Fang Chen's side. Fang Chen nodded with satisfaction and said, "Nothing for the time being. Inform me when you accept my challenge." "Yes." Just as Cloud Piercing Sect Master was about to leave, he was stopped by Fang Chen. "That's right, if there's no response within 3 days, spread the news that the Protector is too timid to accept my challenge. As for the specific operation, I believe you should know. Don't worry, I will definitely do it. That's basically it. If there's nothing else, don't disturb me." Fang Chen said, "By the way, how is Wu Pan now?" Speaking of Wu Pan, Cloud Piercing Sect Master's face was filled with a complicated expression. Who would have thought that the disciple who wasn't valued by the sect back then would make the sect prosper to such an extent? If not for Wu Pan, Piercing Cloud sect would have been destroyed long ago, right? Wu Pan's potential is not bad. His cultivation progress is very fast. All the resources of Piercing Cloud sect are concentrated on him. I believe it won't be long before he can step into the Holy Venerate realm. Cloud Piercing Sect Master said, moreover, after our discussion, we have decided to appoint Wu Pan as the next Sect Master of Piercing Cloud Sect. When he steps into the Holy Venerate realm, he will inherit the position of Sect Master. Fang Chen nodded. All of this was within his expectations. He owed Wu Pan a favor, which was why he helped Piercing Cloud Sect. The Piercing Cloud sect would definitely remember all of this on Wu Pan. Wu Pan's days would probably be better in the future. Furthermore, Piercing Cloud sect is currently expanding. They have established a branch in Bloodflame City. Wu Pan is training in Bloodflame City as the branch master, Piercing Cloud sect master said with a grin. When Piercing Cloud sect master saw Fang Chen's expression, he knew that Piercing Cloud sect's actions were right. After obtaining Fang Chen's recognition, would Piercing Cloud sect still need to worry about not being able to develop in the future? In the Protector's residence in the Bloody Battle Domain, bang! A crisp sound rang out, followed by a furious roar. In the courtyard, many servants stood there quietly, trembling in fear. The Protector was currently in a rage. They did not dare to go in and cause trouble for fear of being punished by the Protector. Damnable fellow! The Protector's furious voice came from the room. After killing Strange Dragon City's City Lord, you dare to challenge me? You really don't know how the word death is written. After venting his anger, the Protector walked out of the room. He stood with his hands clasped behind his back, exuding a cold aura. His dark eyes swept over everyone, and he immediately said in a deep voice, "Who does Fang Chen think he is? He's just a city lord. What qualifications does he have to challenge me? That's right. The Protector is an existence above all in the Bloody Battle Domain. What qualifications does a mere city lord have to challenge the Protector?" The servants were also echoing. "Spread the news that Fang Chen is not qualified to challenge me. If he wants to continue living in the Bloody Battle Domain, he should obediently come to the Protector's residence and ask for forgiveness. Otherwise, I will let him die without a burial place. Yes, Protector." Soon after, the Protector's words swept across the entire Bloody Battle Domain like a kite. After hearing this, many city lords knew that the Protector was really enraged this time. Fang Chen's choice was too unwise. He had just obtained the recognition of the higher-ups in the Bloody Battle Domain, and he dared to be so arrogant. Everyone was secretly observing whether Fang Chen would go to the Protector's residence and ask for forgiveness. Lord's residence. "Lord, it's exactly as you predicted." The butler hurried over and whispered. The Blood Lord was very calm, as if everything was under control. "Okay, I know. You may leave." The butler nodded and turned to leave. The Blood Lord looked up at the void and smiled eerily. "I believe that you will have a way." As soon as the news of the Protector's residence spread, the entire Bloody Battle Domain was discussing this matter. Some people were scolding Fang Chen, while others thought that the Protector was timid. In short, there were different opinions. However, just as many city lords remained silent, the Black Corpse City Lord spoke in a high-profile manner and supported the Protector. "Fang Chen offended his superiors and deserves to die. How dare you offend the Protector? You will die without a doubt." The Black Corpse City Lord kept humiliating Fang Chen to curry favor with the Protector. This made many city lords a little disgusted, but they didn't say anything. In Chuanyun City, Fang Chen sneered when he heard the news. Whoosh! The teleportation array flickered, and the next moment, Fang Chen appeared in Black Corpse City. Has he finally jumped out? Now that everything was under Fang Chen's control, he was waiting for the Black Corpse City Lord to take the initiative to jump out. Whoosh! A majestic sword light descended from the sky and directly destroyed the City Lord mansion. A powerful aura raged throughout the land, and in an instant, Black Corpse City was turned into ruins. "Stop!" A black shadow soared into the sky and stared at Fang Chen angrily. "Fang Chen, what do you mean by this?" Looking at the ruins of Black Corpse City below, the City Lord's face was extremely gloomy. "Don't you know?" Fang Chen sneered. The Black Corpse City Lord was furious and attacked at lightning speed. I'm going to kill you. You're too weak. Fang Chen took the initiative to attack. The star-hidden sword drew a strange arc and released a fierce and overbearing sword light. At this moment, the invincible sword principle was perfectly displayed. The extremely powerful sword light directly split the Black Corpse City Lord into two. The Black Corpse City Lord's body was burning with flames. His body suddenly shattered, and a black shadow with a powerful corrosive aura appeared in front of Fang Chen. Sure enough. Seeing this scene, Fang Chen sneered. The Black Corpse City Lord was indeed a corpse demon. The corpse demon is getting bolder and bolder. With a shake of his wrist, the sword swept across the sky. No. The Black Corpse City Lord wanted to stop it, but he couldn't. Fang Chen's attack power was too strong. Moreover, when he displayed the invincible sword principle, he also activated the sealed sky monument to seal the Black Corpse City Lord's body. Catcher. A cold light pierced through the sky. The Black Corpse City Lord had fallen. Rumble. Subsequently, Fang Chen continuously waved his sword, completely destroying the Black Corpse City and the corpse demon hidden in it. Chapter 37-39. Crack. The blood-red battlefield shook as the sky collapsed and the earth cracked. The color of blood filled the air. Fang Chen was still fighting a bloody battle. He held the Spirit Slayer sword in his hand and swept across the heavens and earth, killing the blood-maned. Blood pills were absorbed into his body one by one. Monstrous bloodline power crazily surged. Terrifying origin energy surrounded his body. At this moment, Fang Chen was like a peerless god of slaughter. Kill. Fang Chen had already sunk into a state of slaughter, as though he was born to slaughter. Blood filled his eyes. He had never felt such a strong fighting spirit before. Poochie. The earthy yellow halo completely covered his body. Even so, the attacks of the blood-maned still landed on his body. His clothes were stained with blood and his arms were bleeding everywhere. However, he still continued to fight and did not retreat. He knew very well that this was a battle of life and death. Once he retreated, he would have no chance at all. I will kill my way to the heavens and earth. Fang Chen's eyes were filled with astonishing light. He recalled his life. He had walked out of the insignificant ancient sword continent and finally walked out of the universe step by step into the primordial chaos. Now, because he shouldered the heavy responsibility of saving the entire primordial chaos, he had reincarnated into the origin world to fight against the devouring demon clan. He could not die. He had been killing his whole life. Although the blood-maned in front of him were powerful, they did not know any fighting techniques. They only knew how to attack recklessly. Fang Chen could deal with such a crisis calmly. Kill. A heaven-defying roar came from his mouth. He slashed his sword at the blood-maned who was close to him. The sound of metal colliding rang out. The blood-man's body was instantly split in half. He could not help but take a few steps back as his hand hurt. Roar. Angry roars came from the mouths of the blood-maned. They seemed to see that Fang Chen was exhausted, so they wanted to take this opportunity to kill him in one fell swoop. Rumble. More and more blood-maned swarmed forward. They used their strongest power, wanting to annihilate Fang Chen. For them, there was only one thought in their minds, which was to carry out the orders left by the Blood Country's master. They would defend the blood-red battlefield and not allow anyone to set foot on it. Bang! In the chaotic battle, Fang Chen was injured. He was sent flying by a punch. At the same time, a dense swarm of blood marmoths swarmed over and surrounded him. He was struggling with all his might. Shocking sword lights crisscrossed. Even in such a hopeless situation, he did not give up. We can't let this drag on any longer. Below the bloody battlefield, the old man's expression gradually became serious. He said in a low voice, "Every wave of blood devourers appeared at a fixed time. Therefore, Fang Chen had to kill all the blood-maned puppets in the shortest amount of time possible so that he could have time to rest and recover. If he couldn't kill them and instead fell into a chaotic battle, once the time was up, the next wave of blood-maned warriors would automatically appear. At that time, More and more blood marmosets joined the battlefield. Even invincible saint-level experts would find it difficult to break through the encirclement. They might even die in the bloody battlefield. Time was running out. The old man with the walking stick was starting to worry. Fang Chen's potential was very strong, and he also had the perfect bloodline. Over the countless years, he was the genius with the highest chance of becoming a supremacy. He didn't want to see Fang Chen die in the bloody battlefield. Boom! 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 There was a huge commotion on the bloody battlefield. Fang Chen was still fighting with all his might. However, in the end, time was still delayed. A deafening sound came from the void. Then, a blood-red void gate appeared in the sky above the bloody battlefield. The next moment, a dense swarm of blood-maned warriors walked out from it. Oh no! The old man with the walking stick said to himself. He was very anxious, staring at Fang Chen without blinking. Previously, Fang Chen was fighting with the 29th wave of blood-maned warriors. Their attack power was already very strong, and Fang Chen had a hard time getting the upper hand. But now, the last wave of blood-maned warriors had appeared. They would join forces with the remaining blood-maned warriors from the previous wave to continue the battle and encircle Fang Chen. For Fang Chen, this was no different from adding fuel to the fire. He was in danger. Bang! In just one exchange, Fang Chen was sent flying. There were too many blood-maned warriors, and their combat power had soared. He was no match for them. Sigh. The old man with the walking stick sighed, and his voice was full of helplessness. At the same time, something strange also happened in the cave of the dragon-slaying cave. The prodigies who were training all over the place suddenly stopped in their tracks and raised their heads to look. In the void above the ninth heaven, a blood-red sun suddenly appeared. The dazzling red light illuminated the entire earth. Everyone was stunned. What had happened? Why did such a strange phenomenon appear? They sensed a strong murderous intent from the blood-red sun. Is the sky going to change? Someone exclaimed. What happened? Why is it like this? A terrible crisis pervaded every corner of the cave of the dragon-slaying cave. Many martial artists hid, afraid of being implicated. In the nest of the beasts, the ancestor's face was extremely gloomy. His dark eyes stared at the blood-red sun, and a trace of horror flashed in his eyes. Is the legend really coming? He vaguely remembered that the ancestor had once said that their clan was guarding a world-shaking demon. When the blood-red sun descended, the cave of the dragon-slaying cave would be destroyed, and the world-shaking demon would be born again. Thinking of this, the ancestor of the beasts turned pale with fright. Quickly gather all the clans and leave this place immediately. The ancestor gave a death order. Many clansmen were puzzled. They had lived here for countless years, so why did they suddenly have to move? Ancestor, what happened? A clansman stepped forward and asked. The world-shaking demon is about to be born. The ancestor said in a hoarse voice. Soon, all the clansmen of the beasts were gathered, and under the leadership of the ancestor, they quickly left the nest. Not long after, the valley was empty. At the same time, Lunatic Jen also finally came out of the ancient mansion and carefully walked out of the passage. He was originally prepared to fight to the death with the beasts, but he didn't expect that there was nothing here. Not good. Soon, he sensed a bloody aura in the void. What's going on? He quickly walked out of the ancestral hall, and when he looked up, he was instantly stunned. The blood-red sun? He exclaimed. The words left behind in the drunken sword inheritance appeared in his mind. When the blood-red sun reappears, the world-shaking demon will be born again. Let's go. Lunatic Jen's eyes were filled with horror, and he desperately fled this place. In the life-forbidden zone, where the White Ape clan lived. The White Apes gazed past through layers of space and saw the scene in the cave of the dragon-slaying cave. Is it finally going to be born? He muttered to himself, seemingly a little worried about Fang Chen. However, he soon felt relieved. This matter started because of him, and it would naturally end because of him. If he couldn't survive this disaster, then he wouldn't be qualified to enter the core of the life-forbidden zone. Chapter 3740. Romance Chinese Network. The bloody sun reappeared and the demon descended to the human world. The monsters were already frightened and moved away. The other martial artists who were hiding in the cave of the slaying dragon also hid and did not dare to show themselves. The power of the bloody sun was terrifying and radiated throughout the entire cave of the slaying dragon. At this time, in the kingdom of blood, the old man with a crutch was not affected at all and kept staring at the bloody battlefield. The number of blood puppets on the battlefield had reached a new height. There were thousands of them. Can he hold on? Even the old man with a crutch was a little worried about Fang Chen. After all, there were so many blood puppets. If Fang Chen made a mistake, he would definitely die. However, the more dangerous the situation was, the calmer Fang Chen was. He held the Spirit Slayer sword in his hand and fully activated the 4 origin powers. At the same time, he also absorbed a large number of blood pills and activated his perfect bloodline to suppress the blood puppets. Crack! One after another, the blood marmoths were killed by him. At this moment, he did not even have time to collect the blood pills. Once his movements were filled with a sliver, death would be waiting for him. Kill! He roared to the sky and kept waving the Spirit Slayer sword. However, there would always be a time when one's strength would be exhausted. After fighting for 7 days and 7 nights, Fang Chen finally could not hold on and made a fatal mistake. Crack! One of the blood marmoths behind him struck his shoulder with his palm. Blood splattered everywhere, and his body was sent flying. Roar! Hordes of blood-maned marmoths roared angrily. They swarmed forward, trying to kill Fang Chen. What should I do? At this critical moment, a trace of anxiety flashed in Fang Chen's eyes. Buzz! Terrifying sword chi gushed out from his body as he displayed the invincible sword technique. At this moment of life and death, he understood the true meaning of the invincible sword technique. I see. He slashed with his sword and the Spirit Slayer sword turned into a giant sword and swooped down with invincible sword chi. Wherever the giant sword passed, all the blood puppets were annihilated. This is an invincible aura. The old man with a crutch was dumbfounded. A layer of sword chi rippled and covered the entire bloody battlefield. The sword suppressed the blood puppets. Invincible sword technique. Fang Chen was overjoyed and he waved the Spirit Slayer sword happily. The original pressure was gone and it was replaced by invincible confidence. Invincible sword technique. Was invincible translation. Translation all the time, he had been comprehending and improving the invincible sword technique. In the bloody battlefield, he had been in the bloody battlefield for a while and this was because the heaven-slashing 5 swords was a supreme technique. It was even more powerful than the invincible sword arts. Because he had been using the heaven-slashing 5 swords all the time, Fang Chen was able to comprehend the sword move that he was so confident about in his life and death situation. Thus, it merged with the undefeatable way of the sword and unleashed a shocking strike. God translation. Even the old man with the crutch had never seen such a shocking swordsmanship in this era. The belief of invincibility was integrated into his swordsmanship. This was the true invincible sword Dao. What was invincible? Suppressing all the worlds in a crushing manner. Destroying the enemy with unparalleled power. Confidence was always there. This was the invincible sword technique. Whoosh! The invincible sword ART's destructive power slashed on the bloodmane's body, and the bloodmane was instantly annihilated. A sword technique comparable to the supreme sword technique. The old man with a crutch trembled. He didn't expect Fang Chen to be able to create such a sword technique. His sword technique is too strong. Even the former sword saint didn't have such an invincible sword technique. In his memory, the scene of the former owner of the Kingdom of Blood fighting with a sword saint appeared. The latter's sword technique that could split mountains and destroy the starry sky was still unforgettable. And now, he finally saw such an exquisite sword technique again. It was no exaggeration to say that Fang Chen's invincible sword technique was almost invincible. At least, it could be ranked first among the sword techniques. The breakthrough of the invincible sword technique caused his strength to increase rapidly. Moreover, Fang Chen found that the invincible sword technique seemed to be able to restrain the blood puppets better. On the contrary, The sky-slashing five swords' restraint was weaker. Could it be that they are immune to the origin power when they are born? This was the only explanation that made sense. Boom. When the last sword slashed down, the last blood puppet exploded. Fang Chen was so tired that he collapsed to the ground. The bloody battlefield was covered with blood pills. Congratulations. The old man with a crutch looked at Fang Chen with a smile. The bloody battlefield disappeared and Fang Chen returned to the ground. He handed the Chenkuan bag to the old man. Your blood pills are all here, said the old man with a crutch. The fact that Fang Chen was able to pass the second test had truly shocked him. However, if he could pass the second test, the third test should be easy. I thought you would fail, said the old man with a crutch. I didn't expect your sword technique to have a breakthrough at the last moment and annihilate the blood puppets. Phew. Fang Chen took a deep breath and tried his best to calm the shock in his heart. At the same time, he was also quickly recovering his strength. The fierce battle in the bloody battlefield had consumed too much of his strength. He almost collapsed. If he had held on for even one more minute, he would have died. He might as well have a breakthrough in the invincible sword technique. I am invincible. I should dominate the world. The essence of the invincible sword technique was deeply imprinted in Fang Chen's mind. It's funny that I always thought that the invincible sword technique was inferior to the sky-slashing five swords. Fang Chen shook his head and smiled bitterly. After all, the sky-slashing five swords belonged to someone else. Although it was a supreme technique, it was not the most compatible with him. Moreover, he could not perform the strongest and complete sword technique before he mastered the last sword technique. The invincible sword technique was different. It was born from the invincible sword technique and was created according to his own situation. It was very compatible with him. Moreover, he was able to know its every movement trajectory, and even its position every second. Under such circumstances, the breakthrough in the invincible sword technique was like a timely help. Phew. He felt that it was a close call. I have to say, your sword technique is really powerful. The old man with a crutch sighed. At this moment, the blood-red sun above the cave of the dragon-slaying cave suddenly soared and then began to expand. A terrifying power swept across the world as if it would explode at any time. Buzz! An amazing invincible sword chi rushed into the sky and drilled into the blood-red sun. This intensified the expansion of the blood-red sun. Thump! Thump! The earth was trembling and the mountains were shaking. Everyone in the cave of the dragon-slaying cave was in a panic. Everyone's heart was full of panic. If the blood-red sun exploded, it would definitely destroy the cave of the dragon-slaying cave. They were even looking for an escape route. The monsters roared to the sky and fled frantically. However, no one would have guessed that the person who caused the reappearance of the blood-red sun was Fang Chen. Chapter 3741. Now you have passed the second test. The old man with the crutch said with a smile, you can't participate in the third test at all in your current state. Wait until you are in a better state. Moreover, the old man with the crutch told him that there was no limit to the time he could participate in the third test. In other words, Fang Chen could participate whenever he wanted. Okay. Fang Chen sat cross-legged, closed his eyes, and began to recover. The four origin forces surrounded his body and protected him. In his meridians, the aura of Sword Dao flowed, giving people a feeling of incomparable vigor. The residents of the White Ape clan. White Ape raised his head and looked in the direction of the cave of the slaying dragon, staring at the movement of the blood-red sun. Boom! All of a sudden, the pressure of the blood-red sun spread out. White Ape's expression changed. He informed the three brothers to get ready to enter the cave of the slaying dragon at any time to rescue Fang Chen. Grandpa White, what happened? Did Fang Chen encounter danger in the cave of the slaying dragon? With his strength, it shouldn't be. The three brothers asked with a puzzled look. Don't ask what you shouldn't ask. White Ape said in a deep voice, wait here, I will go to the core of the forbidden zone. Hearing this, a shocked expression appeared on the faces of Bai Yi and his brothers. The core of the forbidden zone was where the primitive tribes lived. Although the White Ape clan was a subordinate tribe of the primitive tribes, their status was very low. Normally, they were not qualified to enter the core of the Forbidden Zone. But now, White Ape was going to the Forbidden Zone. This showed that the seriousness of the matter was beyond their imagination. "Don't worry, Grandpa White, we will definitely keep an eye on the situation in the cave of the Slaying Dragon. We promise to rescue Fang Chen as soon as possible." White One nodded heavily. After White Ape finished his words, he set off with peace of mind. With the help of the White Ape clan's teleportation array, they soon arrived at the core of the Forbidden Zone. Here, birds were singing and flowers were fragrant. It was not at all obvious that this was the Forbidden Zone that people feared. The White Ape clan requests an audience. White Ape stood near the teleportation array and did not go out. He knew very well that the Forbidden Zone seemed to be full of birds and flowers, but in fact, it was full of murderous intent. If he wandered around, he would attract a fatal disaster. "What's the matter?" A melodious voice, as if it existed since ancient times, came from the depths of the Forbidden Zone. The Blood Sun appeared in the cave of the Slaying Dragon. White Ape cupped his fists and said. The core of the Forbidden Zone fell into silence. After a long while, the voice was heard again. "Your White Ape clan must handle this matter well." A rough voice entered White Ape's ears. "I don't care about anything else, but there is one condition. That guy cannot die." White Ape's heart trembled when he heard this. Sure enough, as he had guessed, the primitive races in the Life Forbidden Zone were also paying attention to Fang Chen. He took a deep breath and tried to suppress the excitement in his heart. "I understand." After asking for instructions from the primitive races, he knew what to do. After the White Ape left, a sigh came from the Forbidden Zone. No one knew what the sigh meant. Bai Yi and his brothers had been watching the situation in the cave of the Extinguishing Dragon. The blood-red sun had been expanding, and its speed was getting faster and faster. It was about to completely cover the entire cave of the Extinguishing Dragon. Terrifying power continued to surge. Voila! When White Ape appeared, Bai One and the other two brothers were overjoyed and hurriedly asked, "Grandpa Bai, what's the situation?" White Ape looked at the three young men and said in a deep voice, "Let's go to the cave of the Extinguishing Dragon and rescue Fang Chen." Carefree Manor, Governor's Mansion. Still no news. It had been more than 300 years, and Fang Chen still had not come out. "Don't worry, Marquis. The cave of the Extinguishing Dragon is a sacred place for cultivation. There are countless opportunities inside. I think the three geniuses of our Carefree Manor will be able to gain something." The one who spoke was Patriarch Liu. Because of the quota of the cave of the Extinguishing Dragon, the Liu clan had completely allied with the Carefree Manor. Moreover, the alliance between the Bright Manor and Sky Moon Manor had been going against the Carefree Manor for the past 100 years. Therefore, the alliance between the two forces was even stronger. Report. At this moment, a servant ran in hurriedly. "Marquis, there is an urgent report from the border. The Bright Manor and Sky Moon Manor's allied army has arrived. They have officially declared war on the Carefree Manor." Hearing this, Marquis Xiaoyao's face instantly turned serious. HMPH Patriarch Liu snorted. "The Bright Manor and Sky Moon Manor haven't even dealt with the internal conflict. How dare they expand?" He stood up and looked at Marquis Xiaoyao. Then, they went to the border together. A few days later, at the border, the three armies faced each other. Marquis Xiaoyao and Patriarch Liu stood side by side in the void, gazing ahead. The armies of the Bright Manor and Sky Moon Manor were black in color. The two manor lords were also standing at the front. "Marquis Xiaoyao, we meet again." A muscular middle-aged man in black laughed heartily. He was the manor lord of Bright Manor, and also an invincible saint. He was best at the immobility of Bright Manor, and was known to have the strongest defense. Beside him was a gentle man in white, holding a folding fan. He was the manor lord of Sky Moon Manor, known as the Scholar of Sky Moon. Because, he liked to recite poems during battles. Furthermore, his personal weapon was a writing brush. He looked ordinary, like a weak scholar. However, no one dared to underestimate him. To be able to become the manor lord, one could imagine his strength. In the vast origin world, Many invincible saints wanted to compete for the position of Mana Lord. Marquis Xiaoyao, isn't it time to settle the score between us? The Mana Lord of Sky Moon Mana said casually. How? Marquis Xiaoyao asked in a low voice. The two Manas are reputable forces in the origin world. How dare you join forces to go against the carefree Mana? What a disgrace. Patriarch Liu did not give the two Mana Lords any face and mocked them. If the four main branches know about your actions, will it affect your disciples' entry into the four great sanctuaries? As soon as he said that, the two Mana Lords' expressions changed. However, they quickly regained their composure. You don't have to worry about that. The Mana Lord of Sky Moon Mana said. Patriarch Liu, I don't want to criticize you. How glorious was your Liu clan in the past? What about now? The Mana Lord shrugged. I can only say that your Liu clan's decision to move to the carefree Mana was the wrong one. Why don't you move to the bright Mana instead? I promise to give you 10 times the treatment you get in the carefree Mana. The Mana Lord of Carefree Mana waved his sleeve, and a terrifying aura spread out. If you want to fight, let's fight. Do you think the Carefree Mana is afraid of you? As Mana Lords, they were all invincible saints. No one was willing to bow to them. Xiaoyaro Hu, you won't be able to stop us if we join forces. The Mana Lord of Sky Moon Mana said. However, we don't want to completely destroy the Carefree Mana, as long as you can promise us one thing. Chapter 3742. What condition? Xiaoyaro Hu's aura did not diminish. This time, the two prefectures came with great force. If a war really broke out, Xiaoyaro Mana was not confident of winning. If they failed, it would mean that Xiaoyaro Mana would completely fall apart. This was not something Xiaoyaro Hu wanted to see. That was why he asked. Your Carefree Mana has always controlled a passage to the primal chaos battlefield. If you can give up 2/3 of it to our two Manas, we'll stop here. We'll also swear in the name of the devouring demon clan's chief that we'll never invade your Carefree Mana again, the Sky Moon Mana Lord said with a smile. That's right. This is our only condition. If you agree, we will retreat and become the best allies of Xiaoyaro Mana. The Bright Lord Prefecture Lord added. Hearing this, Deputy Xiaoyao's face darkened. He did not expect them to be thinking about the passage to the chaos battlefield. Master. Patriarch Liu whispered into his ear. After all these years of harvesting, the chaos battlefield is almost worthless. Rather than that, it would be better to give some to Qianyu Prefecture and Bright King Mana. In the end, the three parties reached an agreement. Carefree Mana gave up 2/3 of the control of the passage to Sky Moon Mana and Bright King Mana. The two prefectures also took out a huge amount of wealth and gave it to Xiaoyaro Mana as an exchange. After all, to the two prefectures, as long as they could control the passage, it was better than anything else. They did not really want to declare war. If they did, although they would destroy Xiaoyaro Mana in the end, both of them would suffer great losses. To Xiaoyaro Mana, this was the only way out. They could only use a huge amount of wealth to recoup some losses. Haha, happy cooperation. The Sky Moon Prefecture Lord said. Xiaoyaro Hu, prepare for the handover ceremony. We will send someone to control the passage soon. The Bright Lord Prefecture Lord could not wait to send someone to the chaos battlefield. Besides that, undercurrents were surging all over the origin world. There was a rumor that someone saw the demon-devouring clan leader standing on the peak of a volcano, as if he was going against the heavens. Some said that it was an illusion and not the real body of the demon-devouring clan leader. Some said that the demon-devouring clan leader had not shown up for countless eras. He had died long ago, but the four major branches kept it a secret. All kinds of rumors could be heard. The entire origin world was in a state of panic. Everyone was actively increasing their strength in preparation for the impending disaster. As for the Chaos Realm, with a great monarch standing guard, there shouldn't be any major problems. As for those from the devouring demon clan who had barged into the Godsfall battlefield from the primal chaos battlefield, the great sage did not kill them all. Leaving them alive was a form of training for the warriors of the primal chaos realm. If they couldn't even withstand this kind of tempering, then they would definitely die in the upcoming catastrophe. In the Kingdom of Blood. Fang Chen was completely unaware that his every move affected the hearts of all living beings in the entire chaotic realm. It took him a full 3 months to fully recover. Whoosh! He held the Spirit Slayer sword in his hand and performed the invincible sword technique. Streaks of exquisite swordsmanship were displayed in front of him. Pa pa pa! The elder with the walking stick couldn't help but applaud. It was just too exquisite. Your swordsmanship has already reached the greater mastery realm. It is only a step away from a supreme technique. Furthermore, because it was created by you, it is extremely compatible with you. That is why it is able to unleash power comparable to a supreme technique. The elder with the walking stick commented, in time, you will definitely become a sword saint, or even a sword Dao Supreme. The last sword Dao Supreme was Fujian Supreme. My body has recovered. Can I participate in the third test? Fang Chen asked. Before the great calamity, he had to transform his perfect bloodline. If possible, it would be best if he could step into the supreme realm. Whoosh! He took a deep breath and gradually calmed down. The third test is the heart. The elder with the walking stick waved his hand and a sealed blood-red space appeared. If you can hold on, you pass. After that, the blood-red space opened and Fang Chen entered. Buzz! As soon as he entered, he felt his primordial spirit tremble. What are you cultivating for? An evil voice echoed in the blood-red space. This voice contained an extremely strong penetrating power and directly hit Fang Chen's primordial spirit. Dong dong dong! His primordial spirit trembled and he felt dizzy. He almost fainted. What are you cultivating for? Fang Chen muttered to himself. Of course, it's to protect the people I want to protect. The world will eventually be destroyed. No matter how strong you are, what can you do? In the end, won't you still have to watch your family die one by one? The evil voice sounded again. A look of determination appeared in Fang Chen's eyes. Cultivation is going against the heavens. If the world is going to be destroyed, then I will stop it. However, at this moment, a subtle aura entered his mind. In an instant, Fang Chen hallucinated and saw everything. Brother Chen, save me. Star and Moon, dressed in a purple robe, stood on the top of the snow mountain and was besieged by the demon cultivators. Her body was covered in blood and her aura was weak. There was no way to escape. Star and Moon, you can't escape. H, how dare you kill us demon cultivators? You're courting death. Today, we must kill you. Ferocious voices reverberated in the air. Star and Moon's cheeks were full of tears. I'm not afraid of death, but I'm afraid that I won't see you again. Star and Moon, who was crying, jumped down the snow mountain. However, the demon cultivators did not intend to let her go. They attacked together and collapsed the snow mountain, instantly burying Star and Moon. In the blood-red space, Fang Chen fell into madness. His eyes were red and he roared angrily in a delirious state. He punched the ground again and again, and blood flowed out. He felt no pain, as if he was a walking corpse. Father, save me. Fang Shi was being chased by the black-robed men and had no way to escape. Father, avenge us. Fang Han and Fang Yun, his 2 sons, were also forced into a dead end. Fang Chen felt that the sky was falling. He had cultivated desperately all his life in order to protect his family from any harm. But now, he could only watch helplessly as his wife and children died in the hands of demonic cultivators. Yet, there was nothing he could do. No. Fang Chen roared angrily, tears falling. Is it worth it to give up your family for cultivation? The evil voice kept torturing Fang Chen. At this time, Fang Chen fell into madness. He began to doubt himself, the original intention of cultivation, and even his cultivation experience over the years. He was in a state of extreme confusion. If he couldn't withstand it, he would go berserk and fall into the devil's path. Chapter 3743. Romance Chinese Network. Star and Moon was bathed in blood. She raised her head, her eyes filled with sadness. She wanted to see her husband before she died. However, the enemy was too strong. She could only run for her life. Kill. Even if he fell off the cliff, the enemy still wouldn't let him go. Boom. Boom. Boom! Cold wind blew from the bottom of the cliff. Star and Moon's face was ashen. She had completely given up on the idea of survival and fell into despair. "Brother Chen!" Star and Moon cried. Her beautiful face was filled with sadness. "I hope you can take good care of our children." As soon as her voice fell, Star and Moon burned her last trace of blood essence. Her falling speed suddenly soared and she disappeared in an instant. She just wanted to use her own way to live a more dignified life. Is she dead? The enemies who were chasing her climbed up the cliff, looking at the bottomless abyss, and whispered to themselves. Their voices were filled with ice-cold killing intent. They were killing machines without any emotions to speak of. In the blood-red space, Fang Chen fell into madness. His fists were stained with blood. He had lost his mind. If he could return to the Chaos Realm now, he would definitely kill all the enemies. "I can't accept this." Fang Chen roared angrily. He watched his wife fall into the abyss, but he couldn't do anything. This feeling was really painful. Furthermore, his 3 children had also suffered the same fate. At the same time, everyone related to him in the vast ancient Chaos Realm was in a situation of certain death. "Ah!" Fang Chen looked up to the sky and roared. Why did it become like this? Where was the Supreme Sage? Could it be that he was just going to watch the immemorial chaos get slaughtered without a care? Thinking of this, he even regretted shouldering the heavy responsibility of saving the Chaos Realm. "I am saving the Chaos Realm, but who is saving my family?" The roar of anger contained an unyielding will. "Is it worth it?" A voice sounded in his heart again. He was questioning his heart. Was it worth it? For the sake of the world, he had given up on his family. So what if he cultivated to the extreme? Rumble. Angry roars and deafening explosions came from the blood-red space. In the country of blood, the old man with a walking stick sighed when he saw this. From Fang Chen's test, it could be seen that his life experience was very bumpy. It was not easy for him to reach this step. However, such a warrior who came from a humble background actually cared about the world and shouldered the heavy responsibility of saving the Chaos Realm. Was such a decision right or wrong? No one could say for sure. However, the old man with the crutch was a little worried. Fang Chen was a person who valued friendship. If he was completely trapped in the blood-colored space, he would definitely die. If he wanted to pass the test, he had to go through this stage. Throughout the ages, those who were able to stand at the peak were all people with a firm mind. It would still be fine if he was exposed in his heart, but if he were to fall into the illusion of the enemy in a life-and-death battle, that would be the most troublesome thing. Something's not right. In a trance, Fang Chen regained a bit of clarity. He increased his strength and bombarded the ground of the blood-colored space even more fiercely. "Ah!" He looked up to the sky and roared, his face ferocious. Everything in front of him was retreating at a speed invisible to the naked eye. Star and Moon, who had fallen into the abyss, walked out of the abyss. Although there was still blood on her purple robe, her injuries were obviously much better. At the same time, in other places, his family and friends who were in danger also drifted away with the wind like memories. This is an illusion. Fang Chen's forehead was full of sweat, and he felt a chill down his spine. Dong. There was a continuous vibration sound in his body, and the perfect bloodline instantly spread throughout his body, making him feel a cold aura. Then, his breathing became stable, and the scarlet in his eyes gradually faded. Thinking back to the moment just now, he was a little scared. "I will never let you come to any harm." Fang Chen's eyes were even more determined. He did not regret the path he had chosen. Back then, the reason why he agreed to the Supreme Master's request, in addition to saving the world, was also to save the people he wanted to protect. As long as he stepped onto the peak, became a Supreme, killed the demon-devouring clan's patriarch, and completely destroyed the demon-devouring clan, then the crisis of the Chaos Realm would naturally be resolved. And his family and friends would be safe and sound. He wanted to create a peaceful and prosperous era, and the premise was that he needed to be strong enough to suppress. The sages, for the sake of the Chaos Realm, paid the price with their lives. Although I am not as good as the sages, I hope to do my best. Buzz. At this time, in the air above Fang Chen's head, the bloody aura dissipated, and the blood-colored space automatically disappeared. Ha ha ha, congratulations. Even the old man with the crutch did not expect this. A second ago, he was still worried that Fang Chen would lose his mind and be in danger of dying. However, the next second, he forced himself out of the illusion. Moreover, the old man with the crutch could feel that after experiencing this illusion, it was as if he had been reborn. Fang Chen had gained a lot, and his Dao heart was even more determined. His martial Dao heart was to step onto the peak. He clenched his fists, and the power in his body gradually stabilized. At this moment, his primordial spirit underwent a transformation. Buzz! Golden light flashed, and the little golden primordial spirit grew in size, and the power of the primordial spirit also became stronger. I didn't expect you to pass the third test so easily. The old man with the crutch was very happy. The way he looked at Fang Chen also became more and more serious. Others might not know, but he knew very well. The third test seemed simple, but it was actually very dangerous. Before him, there were a total of 9 people who came to challenge this test, and only one person passed the third test, while the other 8 people died in the test. Among the 8 people, 5 had died in the third trial. Their Dao hearts were not firm enough, so they were forever trapped in the illusion, unable to extricate themselves. In the end, the power of the primordial spirit was exhausted, and they exploded and died. Amazing. Seeing the transformation of Fang Chen's primordial spirit, the old man with the crutch could not help but exclaim, I really can't imagine that a little saint's primordial spirit can reach such a strength. Back then, he followed the people of the Blood Nation and traveled the world, and he had seen countless geniuses, but none of them could reach Fang Chen's level in terms of primordial spirit strength. Strictly speaking, the strength of Fang Chen's primordial spirit was comparable to that of an invincible saint, infinitely close to the level of a supreme. Of course, it was harder than ascending to the heavens to cross the threshold of a supreme. Phew. Fang Chen breathed a sigh of relief. He finally passed the third test, and he felt very tired. His clothes were wet with sweat. Fortunately, it was just an illusion, and everything was illusory. Chapter 3744. Fang Chen did not expect the third test to be an interrogation of his heart. At this moment, he felt a lingering fear. If not for his firm Dao heart, he would have sunk into eternal oblivion and would never be able to see his family again. Phew. He heaved a sigh of relief and the wrinkles on his face began to relax. In his mind, he recalled the experience of the third trial. He thought of his wife and children. You she Han Yun His mouth was calling out softly. At the same time, he clenched his fists and became even more determined. From the moment he stepped into the origin world, it was already destined that if he did not succeed, he would not be able to return to the Chaos Realm alive. Therefore, his only thought now was to complete the mission as soon as possible and return to the Chaos Realm. Congratulations. The old man with the crutch was full of praise and even felt that he would be the most likely to succeed among the 10 candidates who entered the country of blood. You have already passed the 3 tests and your primordial spirit has also transformed. The last test made your Dao heart even more determined. Now, you are qualified to inherit the inheritance left behind by the master, the old man with the crutch said with a smile. One could imagine how powerful the master was to be able to create the country of blood. Just these 3 tests alone had nearly caused Fang Chen to die. Fortunately, his potential could be said to be number 1 since ancient times. That was how he managed to pass. Fang Chen raised his head and looked at the old man with the crutch. Back then, he was chased by the ancestors of the monster race and accidentally entered the country of blood while fleeing in a panic. After that, he began to break through. Now, he had finally passed. Senior, since I have passed, can I accept the inheritance left behind by the master of the country of blood? Fang Chen asked directly. The old man with the crutch nodded and flicked his wrist. The crutch in his hand instantly expanded and then exploded. A monstrous blood rain fell from the sky. Pitter. In the blink of an eye, the country of blood turned into a sea of blood. Fang Chen and the old man with the crutch were at the center of the sea of blood. Buzz. A bronze stone platform appeared in front of Fang Chen. This is the true appearance of the kingdom of blood, said the old man with the walking stick. "Sit on this bronze stone platform and your bloodline will naturally transform." Fang Chen nodded and sat cross-legged on the bronze stone platform. In that instant, he felt his perfect bloodline surging out. Rumble. Within the blood sea, a terrifying power gushed out. Fang Chen felt a strong pressure coming from all directions. Ah! He could not help but let out a miserable cry. Scarlet marks appeared on the surface of his skin, and traces of blood escaped from his pores. Not long after, Fang Chen's clothes were corroded by the sea of blood and turned into powder. He sat naked on the stone platform. His entire body had turned scarlet. It was very frightening. The old man with the walking stick had already retreated from the sea of blood. He stood above the sea of blood and stared at Fang Chen. "I hope you can succeed." A strange expression appeared on his face as if he was reminiscing about the owner of the country of blood. The Kingdom of Blood's original intention was to search for the strongest bloodline in the world. The perfect bloodline was naturally considered one of the strongest bloodlines. At this time, in the cave of the slaying dragon, the bloody sun in the sky had disappeared. The cave of the slaying dragon had returned to peace, but everyone felt that a storm was coming. The monster clans had moved out of their lairs. The warriors hiding in the dark did not dare to show their heads, for fear of being affected by the explosion of the bloody sun. As for Sword Maniac, he was seriously injured. As soon as he came out, he hid to comprehend the inheritance of Drunken Sword. Whoosh! In a secret place in the cave of the slaying dragon, the void suddenly tore apart and 3 huge figures appeared. Cave of the slaying dragon. White One stabilized his body and turned into his original form. His eyes were as big as gongs, staring at the sky and saying in a deep voice, "Big brother, where can we find Fang Chen?" White Two asked. "This time, we must save Fang Chen at all costs." White Three's face was solemn. The 3 brothers of the White Ape clan received the order of White Ape to enter the cave of the slaying dragon to save Fang Chen. The bloody son of the heavenly sun shocked the world. This was a rumor from a long time ago that had been circulating in the cave of the slaying dragon. And all of this was caused by Fang Chen. Thump, thump. White One's feet sensed a heavy rhythm coming from below the ground. His face was even gloomier. "Let's go." Although they were in the forbidden zone, they also knew the situation in the cave of the slaying dragon through White Ape. They also knew that Fang Chen was being chased by the monster clans. A few days later, the 3 White Ape brothers encountered the devouring demons. They stared at the 3 brothers with undisguised greed in their eyes. Whoosh! The 3 White Ape brothers ignored the people in front of them and turned to leave, but they were stopped by a shocking saber light. "Humph, you want to leave after bumping into me?" This person held a saber that was extremely sharp and exuded a strong aura. He could see that the 3 White Ape brothers were extraordinary and their bloodline. So, he was greedy. "You're courting death." White 3 attacked first. His big claws tore at the warrior holding the saber and instantly tore off his arm. "With your strength, you dare to scheme against us?" White 3 said disdainfully. At the same time, his big claws tore off the other arm mercilessly. "You." The warrior holding the saber was filled with fear. The greed in his eyes completely disappeared and he kept retreating. Damn it. He was extremely regretful. Why did he get greedy? "I'm a disciple of the Yu Mansion. Let me go." He said the name of the Yu Mansion, trying to intimidate the 3 White Ape brothers. Unfortunately, he was too naive. "What is the Yu Mansion?" White 3 stomped him to the ground, and then tore his flesh apart. "Okay, don't waste time. Just kill him." White One said. "Ah." A scream was heard and the disciple of the Yu Mansion died instantly. "Humph, this kind of trash dares to scheme against us." White 3 snorted. "I really want to see the outside world and see what kind of world it is." White 2 was a little curious. They were born in the Forbidden Zone and were very curious about the outside world. They didn't even know what the outside world was like. White One was the only one who was calm. They entered the cave of the slaying dragon to rescue Fang Chen. Otherwise, according to the rules of the White Ape clan, they couldn't leave the Forbidden Zone at will. Even if the cave of the slaying dragon was a part of the Forbidden Zone, they couldn't leave. The primitive tribes were one of the most powerful tribes. Once they were angered, the White Ape clan would be wiped out. "Don't waste our time," White 1 said in a deep voice. White 2 and White 3 also became serious when they heard that. Fang Chen was most likely related to the primitive tribes in the Forbidden Zone. They didn't dare to be careless. "Let's go," White 2 and White 3 urged. Please remember the domain name of this book, .com wonderful book mobile version website, .com. Chapter 3745. When the 3 White Ape brothers arrived at the nest of the beasts, they were stunned. What's going on? They expected that the nest of the beasts would be heavily guarded and a fight would be inevitable. But now, what entered his eyes was an empty valley. Where are the beasts? White 3 was puzzled. Did they all escape? When the blood sun reappeared, anyone would feel fear. Perhaps the beasts had escaped. Of course, this was just a guess. The 3 brothers quickly entered the nest of the beasts and soon found the ancestral hall. It's empty. White 3 searched the entire valley, but it was empty. Except for some corpses, there were no beasts. There's a passage in the ancestral hall. White 1 found the passage and felt a little strange. Grandpa White Ape said that Fang Chen is in the nest of the beasts, but we searched the entire valley and found nothing. White 2 shook his head and stared at the passage. Is he at the end of the passage? Why do we care so much? Let's just go in and take a look. White 3 said impulsively. After all, they were here to save people, so they needed to race against time. If they were a second late, Fang Chen would be in danger. After discussing for a while, the 3 brothers decided to go in and check it out. At this time, in the Kingdom of Blood, Fang Chen bathed in the sea of blood and sat cross-legged on the bronze stone platform. The perfect bloodline in his body was undergoing a subtle transformation. Crack. The transformation process was very painful. The sea of blood was like a natural furnace, sucking out the perfect bloodline in Fang Chen's body and then melting the impurities. After completely melting it, the unique blood in the sea of blood was integrated into the perfect bloodline to complete the transformation and become even purer. This process was very long. Halfway through, Fang Chen fainted. At this time, the perfect bloodline was still gushing out of his body. Hiss. The process of the perfect bloodline emerging was very slow. Is this the perfect bloodline? The old man with the crutch muttered to himself, his heart full of shock. He had heard of it countless times, but this was the first time he encountered a bloodline so rich that it was comparable to a naturally bred bloodline. Only a bloodline that had reached atavism could have such a strong effect. Bloodline extraction. The mechanical voice echoed coldly in the air above the sea of blood. At that moment, Fang Chen was completely unconscious. However, even with that being the case, pain was still spreading through his entire body. Even his face was twitching. Hiss hiss hiss. The bloodline extraction process had reached its final stage. If it was an ordinary bloodline extraction, once all the blood in the body was sucked dry, the cultivator would definitely die. However, the blood sea was different. It was a unique bloodline evolution space created by the master of the Blood Kingdom. As long as one was in the bloodline, even if the blood in one's body dried up, the blood sea would provide an endless supply of energy. Although this was only temporary, it could at least guarantee that during the process of the blood sea refining the impurities in one's bloodline, the cultivator's body would not be harmed or affected in any way. Boom. After an unknown period of time, a tremor could be heard coming from Fang Chen's body, followed by a terrifying ripple. His complexion was dry, and his body seemed to be skin and bones. He looked sickly. The blood in his body had been completely sucked dry. However, he was still breathing, and it was very even. Buzz. The blood sea surged wildly, forming a small vortex. It compressed the perfect bloodline extracted from Fang Chen's body into a ball, and then sent it into the small vortex to be compressed and refined. At this moment, Fang Chen was at his weakest and could not be disturbed by the outside world. Buzz. However, a strange rhythm appeared on the ground, and the old man with the crutch's face suddenly changed. What's going on? Why do I feel a huge monster breathing? He listened carefully and sensed the rhythm of the ground. The next moment, his face turned green. He thought of a legend. Could it be that there is really a world-shaking demon suppressed underground? The old man with the crutch looked at Fang Chen, who had fallen into a coma, and was extremely anxious. The bloodline had been extracted, and the inheritance could not be stopped. Otherwise, Fang Chen would definitely die. However, the rhythm of the ground became faster and faster, and the sound of breathing became heavier and heavier. All signs indicated that a huge monster was about to be born underground. What should I do? The old man with the crutch completely sealed the Blood Kingdom, trying to avoid the search of the huge monster. At this moment, after various efforts, the three white ape brothers finally broke open the gate of the ancient mansion and entered it. What they saw were many abandoned buildings, which were still in ruins. Let's split up and search. Time waits for no one. Bai Yi decided that the three brothers would split up and search, using all the time they could. Okay. The three brothers agreed that as long as they found any clues, they would immediately explain to the other two. Bai Yi walked in the direction of the Blood Kingdom, but he did not know that Fang Chen was inside. With every step he took, his face became more dignified. Because, in every abandoned building, there was a kind of power that made his heart palpitate. Dong. Suddenly, he felt the ground shake, and his body staggered a little. When he stabilized his body, he directly rose into the air. At this time, the other two brothers also encountered the same situation. What happened? Bai Yi asked. I'm not sure, the ground suddenly shook. Did a battle break out? Bai San shook his head. Why do I feel that there seems to be a heavy breathing sound coming from underground? Bai Er said in a deep voice, and, this breathing sound seems to be familiar. As soon as he said this, Bai Yi and Bai San listened carefully. As expected. Along with the rhythm of the ground, there was a periodic heavy breathing sound coming from underground. Most importantly, the sound of his breathing was horrifying. Because, they thought of something that happened a long time ago. The three brothers looked at each other, not knowing what to do. Crack. Suddenly, the place they were in collapsed, and a huge hole appeared. Below the hole, it was pitch black and bottomless. Not good. When the three brothers reacted, it was already too late. They fell, and the surroundings were pitch black. When they wanted to rise into the air, they were shocked to find that the power in their bodies was sealed, and they could not use it. This discovery caused them to be incomparably shocked. What do we do? Bai San asked anxiously. Boss. Bai Er also began to panic. Only Bai Yi was calm, thinking about how to get out of this situation. Don't panic, we should be falling. Since this place can seal our power, the power of others will be sealed too, Bai Yi said. They originally wanted to save Fang Chen, but they met with danger before they even saw Fang Chen. This made the three brothers very helpless. At this time, Bai Yi, who was in the residence of the White Ape clan, looked up. The three brothers' actions were all in his eyes. Sigh, is he finally going to come out? Chapter 3746. The Kingdom of Blood. Fang Chen sat cross-legged in the sea of blood. In front of him was a blood vortex that was refining his perfect bloodline. As long as the refining was completed, he would be considered to have truly received the inheritance of the Kingdom of Blood. However, at this moment, a strange change occurred. The heavy breathing sound became more and more rapid. A dignified look appeared on the face of the old man with a crutch. He exerted all his strength, trying to seal the Kingdom of Blood and prevent it from being disturbed by the outside world. However, the heavy breathing sound seemed to be able to penetrate all seals and penetrate into the sea of blood. Crack. When this heavy force touched Fang Chen's withered body, a strange change finally occurred. After the perfect bloodline was drained, Fang Chen's body was extremely fragile. The heavy force directly tore his body apart. Not good. The old man with a crutch shouted inwardly. He couldn't care less and directly rushed into the sea of blood, trying to rescue Fang Chen. However, it was too late. Fang Chen's withered body was directly sucked into the small vortex, and then a terrible crack appeared in the sea of blood. Under the attraction of the heavy breathing sound, it instantly disappeared. Boom. At the same time, the Kingdom of Blood showed signs of cracking. The three white ape brothers standing in the ancient mansion instantly discovered the kingdom of blood. I can sense that Brother Fang Chen is here. Let's go in and see. The three white ape brothers took the lead and rushed into the broken kingdom of blood. However, the scene that appeared in front of them made them extremely angry. What's going on? Seeing the broken kingdom of blood and the illusory body of the old man with a crutch falling to the ground, they were furious. Where did Fang Chen go? Why was there no trace of him? The old man with a crutch, tried to use his last bit of strength to point the three white ape brothers in the direction where Fang Chen disappeared. Unfortunately, his last bit of strength collapsed. The kingdom of blood shattered and he disappeared from the world. Impossible, Fang Chen can't be dead. White 3 fell into madness and constantly bombarded the ruins. Second White pulled him back. Let's search carefully. That heavy breathing sound that came from underground just now was very strange. Finally, White 3 calmed down. The three brothers began to search the broken kingdom of blood seriously, trying to find clues about Fang Chen. Beneath the ground, there was a very strong seal in the center of the ground. There was a huge body that seemed to have existed since ancient times. Heavy breathing could be heard from his body. If Fang Chen was sober, he would have realized that the great demon in front of him was actually a human. His 4 limbs were nailed to the ground, unable to move. Moreover, the chains were made of the world's toughest material, and the world's strongest seal was attached to them. Every breath he took caused the earth to tremble. Hoo. Fang Chen's withered body fell in front of the great demon, and the perfect bloodline that was being refined in the vortex was sucked into the great demon's nostrils. Poochie. Fang Chen's nostrils were torn, and his face showed signs of shriveling. If it was a normal person, they would have died long ago. However, Fang Chen was different. There was still a very small vitality in his body. In the old mansion, after several days of searching, the three brothers of the Bai family looked extremely gloomy. Fang Chen was missing. This meant that he had most likely died in the crisis. The three brothers hated themselves very much. Why didn't they come earlier? If they did, they might have been able to save Fang Chen. After all, he was valued by the primitive clans in the Life Forbidden Zone. If something really happened to him, how could they explain it to the primitive clans? At that time, the White Ape clan would be punished for this. Humph. Bai San snorted coldly and rushed out of the ancient mansion with an imposing manner. He was now furious and wanted to start a massacre. It's all because of you. Otherwise, Fang Chen wouldn't have disappeared. In the next period of time, the cave of the slaying dragon shook violently. The three White Ape brothers were like crazed beasts as they searched everywhere for the devouring demon clan members who were training, as well as the locations of the monster clans. As long as they found them, they would kill mercilessly. In a certain area, 2 disciples of the mountain mansion had obtained a powerful inheritance. They were very excited and wanted to explore the cave of the slaying dragon. However, they encountered the three brothers. Kill. Without hesitation, Bai San immediately executed his thunderous moves and engaged in an intense battle with the 2 disciples of the mountain prefecture. Get lost. The disciples of the mountain mansion were very arrogant and fought against White 3. How dare you target our disciples? You're courting death. After all, the disciples of the mountain mansion were just ordinary disciples. They were too weak compared to the White Ape clan who lived in the Life Forbidden Zone. White 3 fought against the 2 disciples of the mountain mansion alone. Poochie. When White 3 reverted to his original form, his gigantic white ape body suddenly pressed down on the bodies of the 2 mountain mansion disciples, instantly suppressing them. Their expressions changed drastically, as if they had thought of a legend. Life Forbidden Zone? Unfortunately, they found out too late. White 3 was enraged. Using methods that left no time for covering ears like a sudden clap of thunder, he instantly strangled the 2 people. These devouring demon clan deserved to die. The White Ape clan was a subsidiary clan of the primitive clans. They had a common enemy, the devouring demon clan. The source world was now under the control of the devouring demon clan. They could only live in the Life Forbidden Zone and could not leave. It was difficult to find such an opportunity. Since they found it, they naturally had to kill it. Soon, the three brothers locked onto the new nest of the monster clan. At this moment, the ancestor of the monster clan raised his head and looked at the sky above the original nest. Strange phenomena kept flashing in the sky. His heart was trembling. Has the great demon clan appeared? His voice was trembling and his heart was filled with fear. If the great demon clan appeared, their clan might not be able to survive. I hope the legend is false. The ancestor of the monster clan said in a deep voice. Ancestor, a member of the clan called out softly. Recently, 3 white apes have appeared in the cave of the slaying dragon. They are crazily hunting down the devouring demon clan who came in to train. Hearing this, the ancestor of the monster clan was shocked. 3 white apes. He was stunned. Then, he waved his hand and wanted to set up a formation to seal the void. Tell all the clan members to hide their auras and not go out. Then, he personally controlled the formation and told everyone to get ready for battle. Many of the clan members were confused. It was just 3 white apes. If the ancestor attacked, he could easily kill them. Why was he so vigilant? However, the ancestor of the monster clan obviously knew more than the clan members. His eyes were deep as he stared ahead. Even the life forbidden zone had started to take action. Please remember the domain name of this book, .com wonderful book mobile version website, .com.